final day, week 4, stage 2. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Puckett. We have an awesome day of Overwatch coming at you, and I've got the full desk to bring you all the games. We got Bren, we got Johnny, Sully's with us once again, and we have an amazing crowd. Shout out to all of you guys here in the Blizzard Arena. It's Sign Saturday, guys. What's your favorite so far, Johnny?
My favorite so far? I actually like the fries we had last week coming in from Reaper. That was a really good sign.
That's my favorite sign right there. Reinforce is not a coward. That's actually completely false.
Yes.
I'm actually the most impressed with everything which has glitter on it, because that's like a lifetime commitment. Once you actually use glitter in anything, it's just a part of you and your life moving forward. So a shout out to everyone who was that brave.
You're locked in. Good luck with that. Let's take a look at our overall standings. So far, it's all been the regular season matches. We've seen stage 1. We're closing out stage 2. Still stages 3 and 4 to go. But if you look at these numbers, New York excel with a fantastic lead. Behind them, you got Seoul, London, Valiant, and Houston right behind them.
Yes, and it's looking like our top 3 teams, they are the most dominant ones, and they're probably going to stick there for a while. We need a new contender. Valiant is on the 4th place, but they haven't really challenged the top 3 yet.
Yeah, and looking at these stage 2 standings as well, everything is in the mix. It's a big toss-up, to be honest, between all of these teams. Anything can realistically happen now, from now into the stage 2 play.
Remember, next Sunday, it's the stage 2 playoffs. We only have 3 teams moving on. London currently in that number 4 spot, looking for a big win today. And they get their opportunity as we kick this one off. It's Seoul, it's London at 1 p.m. A little bit later in the day, though. Very important match for the Philadelphia Fusion.
I'm looking out for the Houston Outlaws today, actually, because they have been in a bit of a slump. But today, I think they could get a big win versus San Francisco Shock.
We got 3 epic matches. The first one starts right now. We got Seoul going up against London, 2 of the biggest names in the Overwatch League, 2 of the most talented rosters. And let's start with the overall schedule here. Leading up to this point, we got both of our teams with similar records. London is trying to take down the Dynasty, and if they're able to do so, you have to like their chances moving forward with the playoffs just around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both of these teams have very solid chances of making it solidly into the playoffs. We're looking at London first. They got the Shanghai Dragons, followed up by the Dallas Fuel. Both these teams obviously not on the similar level to London Spitfire. So if London take a win away today, they are going to be in a very solid position to really just cement their position as coming into it. And then, of course, you've got the Seoul Dynasty, who have also moving into this one.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're looking at those 2 opponents that we'll be facing next week, they're both very winnable. Both teams, however, are definitely able to take matches off of them. Houston is just always a bit of a coin toss, like which Houston are you going to see on the stage? And the Mayhem have been looking really, really solid as of late, so I can see them taking away some of the games from the Seoul Dynasty. And what really worries me is just that generally the last week, or rather this week, for Seoul Dynasty has been hard. They had to go up against NYXL earlier this week and lost a heartbreaking loss. It was a very close game against the NYXL, and now today they're facing off against London, an equally strong team.
That one went to Game 5 against the New York XL. I hope this one goes to Game 5 today. Let's talk about our rosters, though, because Seoul, they're facing off against a very stacked London squad. You look at this group of players. Who are the big names? Who are the biggest weapons to look out for?
Well, the biggest weapons, we'll get to that later. I think it's pretty interesting. I'd like to clarify that 6 of these players, they're actually undefeated versus the Seoul Dynasty. We have the GC Bosankor, of course. We have Puyal, Gesture, Prophet. They're undefeated against the Seoul Dynasty throughout Overwatch history. So we'll see. Is any of those players going to play today and stay undefeated, perhaps? But I'm looking out for Birdring, of course, because he is the true star so far for the London Spitfire. He was the Stage 1 playoffs MVP, of course, coming in very clutch against the New York Excelsior. And today, he needs to turn up as well.
All right, we saw Hureg earlier in the week, but today you're hoping to see Birdring. Where is he at his most dangerous? Is it at the Tracer?
Well, that's the thing, right? He can play everything. So usually we see one team opt for one specific hero. We see in New York opt for perhaps Libro playing the Genji, of course, and we see Seoul Dynasty opting for a Soldier on Pleta. But Birdring, he can play everything. He can play the Tracer, the Genji, the Widowmaker even, and so he can play all of these characters to the same high level, and that's so scary because you can't prepare for that, right? They can change up their style.
Especially on a short week here. You just got done prepping for New York. Good luck prepping against Birdring on the London Spitfire. Let's take it over to the Seoul Dynasty, though, because just like London, a super deep lineup. Two guys we expect to be in almost every game, though, Jae Hong and Fleta.
Yeah, and I know in the past, I've called out Ryu Jae Hong. I even called him the problem at a certain point in time, but I don't think that's going to be the case today, right? Mistakes were made. I mean, Ryu Jae Hong and Toby, these guys are the dynamic duo of the support team. They're the kings of the support game in Overwatch. Across the board, across the years of Overwatch that we've seen, they've always been at the top of their game. We're in a meta game where they're comfortable. We're in a meta game where we know they've been succeeding because they're currently sitting up very high and mighty in those leaderboards. Let's see if they can do it today. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to be very imperative if they want to get a win today against Spitfire.
How do the support stay up against Prophet and Birdring today?
Well, that's the thing, right? They just rotate the support ultimate so well. We saw Toby and Ryu Jae Hong, probably just their synergy together, one of the better duos in the league, because they can rotate the support ultimates and get so much value every time, and that's so crucial if you want to win every fight.
All right, the match is just a few moments away. Before we kick this one off, I gotta get the official prediction starting at the end. Zoe, you're up first. Where are we going? We're kicking off the day with the big one. Is it Seoul or London?
Of course, you had to go with me first. You know what? I think I'd love to see the lineups beforehand to actually make a prediction, but if London is fielding their, let's call it, quote-unquote, A squad, if we're going to see Birdring over Hurek, etc., then I do think London might have the edge.
If Birdring and Prophet are playing together, you're going London. Johnny?
Yes.
Now, I actually think that the London Spitfire are the big favorites coming into this one, but Seoul played so well versus the New York Excelsior. So I think that for the sheer fundamentals, Toby and Ryu Jae Hong playing together, then we have so much teamwork going on. So I think the teamwork in itself will be overpowering, and Seoul Dynasty will go away with the win today.
Seoul's getting the win, says Johnny. Anyone agree with him? Like 7 people? They're all of them. Okay.
They're just waking up. It's early mornings, Bucket. But for me personally,
1 p.m.
I've got these nice little towels as well, these London Spitfire towels on my side. And it's very fitting, really, isn't it? Because if you think about my stack of papers here as Seoul Dynasty, and this is London, I think this is really going to be how the game's going to be playing out. They're just going to really just sweep them straight off the map. And that's really where I'm seeing this match going all the way, London 4-0.
A little trash talk from the Brit representing London. Surprise, surprise. That is enough from us here at the desk. It's time to get this party started right now. Seoul, London kicks off right here.
Oh, wicked. Helix rocket right to the face.
Prophet yet again, he's a madman.
Fleta with 2 already. Oh, man.
Now it's going to be Birdring. It is the show for him.
Cart is inching there. Toby is on Bastion.
Munchkin, jeez, this guy is going crazy this map.
Oh! And now Jester can go to town.
Only by a hair's width are they able to take victory today.
Let's bring them out. It's our first squad of the day, your Seoul Dynasty. Some of the biggest names in the game today. Miro, one of the greatest tanks in the game today, leading the charge. This squad, they've lost to New York. This is where you turn the week around and finish strong.
Yeah, and specifically Miro, he's really turned his game around from stage 1. We sort of criticized his play. He couldn't really figure out his role, but so far in stage 2, he's been amazing so far. Figured out his limits, rarely die and overextend, but still very effective towards the backline.
This is one of the teams who just really benefited from this new meta. It seems to be playing exactly into their hands, and every single role on this roster is now on their highest possible level.
Yeah, I might have those inherent London biases for obvious reasons, but I mean, you cannot discredit this squad in the slightest. These guys were really at the pinnacle of Overwatch when they were playing it heavily and on a regular basis. They've got such incredible talent in this roster, and they are not holding back any punches at all. I mean, they've got Fleta. I believe I saw Munchkin on the lineup as well. I mean, Munchkin had an incredible game when he last played. The guy was an absolute monster. On a
insane team and the loudest fans as well.
Incredible stuff here. The crowd loves Seoul today. Now it's time to find out how many people are cheering for the London Spitfire. London coming out to the stage next, and here they are. The Spitfire is ready. Coming in with a 5-2 record here in stage 2, a 12-5 record overall. This Spitfire squad will be facing off against Shanghai and Dallas next week. If you get the win over Seoul today, you have to think they're in a great place to lock up that spot in the playoffs.
I'm a bit surprised to see Huyao in this lineup right now.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised as well. We expected Fury a bit more aggressive, I'd like to say. Huyao, he has a very good D.Va, and sure, he is undefeated versus Seoul Dynasty. But I think Huyol at his peak really was good at D.Va when he had 4 seconds with the defense matrix. They changed it, they toned it down to just 2 seconds instead. And since then, I don't think he has been as effective on the D.Va. So interesting to see him in the lineup today.
Lots of love for Profit in the mix as well. So many stars on this stage, and we talked about Miro earlier. Gesture is going to be the guy to watch for me today.
Oh, mate, I mean, Seoul Dynasty, they got to get out of his pub because he's going to be absolutely slaughtering them today, in my opinion. And I might just be biased because, again, I am from the UK, but at the end of the day, I got to support these boys. So much talent in this roster, so much potential, and now they're finally starting to unlock it, and they're getting the ball rolling today.
All right, it looks like they're going to have Hago on the bench, Bedozin and Nuss to open things up. London and Seoul ready to go. Are you guys in the venue ready for this match? Make some noise. We got our casters. It's Uber and Mr. X for game number 1.
The end of week 4, and we're starting to get to the pointy end of things here in stage 2 of the first season of the Overwatch League, Matt. There's a lot of playoff implications on the line for this match. We've been treated to an epic one earlier in the week between New York and Seoul, and now it's time for the Spitfire to set up.
Yeah, this is a really rough week for Seoul Dynasty. Like you mentioned, they had to play NYXL a little bit earlier. They have to play London here on the final day. It's like, how did they prep for both of these teams? Obviously, they play a little bit different. London, very aggressive. NYXL, a little bit more on the defensive end. You can see some of the maps that come up. I know looking at Johnny's stat sheet, talking with Reinforce on the desk. You know, London is undefeated on Hanamura. They are also undefeated on Gibraltar. I believe 2-0 in both. I think for me, Mitch, this series comes down to the tracer play of Munchkin, and can he enable Fleta, on that 76 to really pop off? You need to be able to, duel that other tracer, just get them weak, let that 76 be able to get that damage down from range.
History would tell us that this would be a map in which the Spitfire would be strong, but I think there's no 2 more teams that are capable of changing their own fate or deciding it than these. Hanamura is going to be an interesting one. We did see that Fleta didn't quite look himself previously in the week against New York. He was handled well. A player like Libero really stepped up and actually outperformed Fleta across the board.
And I think that's more of like Sabiel B getting Munchkin weak, forcing Munchkin away, and then allowing Sabiel B to go after Jaehan, which forces Fleta, instead of putting damage down on the tanks, maybe peppering down some supports, then he has to turn and try and put some damage down on Sabiel B. That allows Libero to come in on the Genji or on 76 and finish him off on range. So I think, if you don't want to play a Tracer, this is a type of composition you can run from the London Spitfire on defense. We see the Houston Outlaws, sometimes they don't run the Tracer, and what allows them to make things work, it's that Widowmaker. You can use that Widowmaker, be able to just shoot those tanks, take down a ton of their HP. That allows them not to dive in. It just buys you some more space.
Again, the Spitfire are trying to set up in a position or in a manner that will allow them to do damage while keeping Seoul at arm's length. It's likely that Seoul will have completely different plans coming into their attacking side. If they come out with this composition, all they are going to want to do is to get to grips with the Spitfire, to penetrate the backline, get past Gesture's Orisa barriers, and start beating heads in. 2 very different compositions we're about to see come clashing together. Here we go! Seoul Dynasty gonna be in the white. London Spitfire defending in the aqua.
In between Huyol and Fury, I would say Huyol is the more defensive of the two, kind of like how you heard Johnny mention, really excelled when defense matrix was a little bit longer. I think you maybe see him here at least earlier in this series because you want to run the bird ring on the Widowmaker, right? Just get that D.Va to back to protect him of Bedoshin as well. So you see Seoul Dynasty just trying to feel this out a little bit, going all the way around. They're just trying to get to the point, which is gonna put Birdering in a tough spot, right? Not great sight lines here for the Widowmaker.
They split themselves up though. They've actually left their backline in the building behind Fleta or off to the left-hand side, and they've got their front lines pushing the point. You can see how much effort they're going to try and defend the squishy targets on their team, and Fleta would like to just wrap around a bit and just be a little bit of a pivot here. So Birdering is actually standing in the gate here to give himself the most optimal sight lines on the point.
Yeah, Birdering is actually getting jumped on by Miro right now, and Huyol jumps right in to protect him. So Birdering's able to stay alive, but Seoul Dynasty doesn't have their Winston here. It doesn't look like it matters though, as it's gonna be Fleta on Genji pushing on through.
Slow and steady, Matt wins the race. Seoul Dynasty now want to finish things off. Birdering is finally removed from the picture, playing from a position that ultimately he wasn't able to do too much from. Seoul took a fight inside this building that Wuyar's just emerged from, which prevented the Widowmaker from having any control of the outcome of the fight.
Huyol will drop here, but Seoul's not in a position to push in right away. You're still waiting for Toby and Fleta to come off of respawn. They got the far spawn, but very effective there at the beginning for Seoul Dynasty. Birdering's going to swap off of Widowmaker. He'll go over to Genji. You also had Nuss make a change as well, so kind of reset the ultimate economy of 2 players here. You do have a Riptire coming out. We know how good Riptire can be to just stop a push even before it begins.
Prophet already getting chucked down very early. Munchkin, though, taking a lot of damage from those grenades and opts to go back towards the point and try and control that space, but Wuyal's found him. Now the Riptide being sent up to the high ground. He has noticed the supports are sitting in the back line, and Jayhong peeked around a corner just a little bit too far. He's claimed by the Riptire. Jess is more than happy here to allow Zumba just to exist for a little bit longer. Bit of stagger, definitely wouldn't go awry, but he needs to be careful himself. Does get that Orb of Harmony and the call to return to the point.
And Bidoshin will hold on to this Transcendence and wait for that Dragon Blade to come in from Fleta. You also have Nuss with the Nano Boost, potentially giving that gesture, keeping him alive a little bit longer. So you'll see Prophet go over to Tracer now. Now, Birdring is a very good Tracer, but we haven't really seen Prophet play too much like Widow or Soldier, so that's why you're going to see Prophet play a lot of the Tracer in this series and in Stage 2. You need that Soldier 76 hit scan player.
All right, well, Jesse got that Nano Boost, and now he's going to try and double down with the use of the Primal Rage. He does note with interest that Jayhong has actually been forced to use his Transcendence on the high ground, but that's okay for Soul, because they keep themselves topped up as they approach the point. Both support also been committed to this fight by the Soul Dynasty. The Sound Barrier now to follow it up. That's now expired, but Soul have managed to get themselves to the point essentially unscathed, and this is where the real fight begins.
And the Transcendence comes out from Bidoshin. He just needs to keep everybody alive, but that's going to allow Fleta to use that Dragon Blade, and he gets nothing with it. Birdring goes right through Fleta and Munchkin. Going to use a Dragon Blade of his own. That's such a big play there from Birdring.
Toby's been dealt with, and finally the Spitfire come up with the solution to the problem that was giving him a lot of trouble. Soul had managed to find their way to the point without taking damage, which is normally the most precarious stage for attackers to actually get into fighting position without losing players left, right, and center. They had to use both of those support ults in order to facilitate for that, and they burnt them essentially, and all they got was a tick.
And Soul kind of got what they wanted towards the end there, but everybody was so weak because, like you said, they didn't have those support ults. They're starting to get a little bit spread out. They got that Transcendence out. They knew that they don't have another sustained ultimate. They're able to get a use of the Dragon Blade. Just Flood is so weak when he pops it, not able to do anything with it. And I think he probably uses it there because you're going to change up the comp. You're going to have Flood play 76, try and get up on the high ground. And you're going to have to see Munchkin here go pretty big. He's going to need to put down a lot of damage, allow Fleta to have that space to go up.
Munchkin right now was playing from the front gate. He might actually just go up to the high ground and join the rest of his team. For now, London Spitfire, a brief moment to pause and take a breath as that first little exchange goes without any real notable exclusions or eliminations, but that's going to be a different story this time. Toby's down. Nuss gets pulse bomb way back in towards that spawn area. He actually used a Nano Boost, if I'm not mistaken, before he went down. But again, a 1-for-1 trade means we still have a stalemate.
Yeah, I mean, you get the pulse bomb onto Nuss, but it doesn't really matter because you lose your Lucio. You're not able to speed boost on through. Not able to get Fleta up to that great position. Now you're allowing, Bidoshin's going to build up towards this Transcendence rather quickly. You're going to have that support ultimate here for the London Spitfire. It's like whether Prophet can get this pulse bomb off, right? You get land a big pulse bomb here, stops this fight.
He might have found it.
That'd be huge.
He might have been able to get into the backline here. We tried to circumvent the presence of Zunba there. The trades are coming out though. It's been a 2-for-2 thus far. Both teams are missing their Zenyatas.
But see, that just that push forward and those 2 kills, it's going to allow both support ultimates here to come online for the London Spitfire. You'll have a Nano Blade. As Birdring falls, you're going to see a Primal Rage come out for Miro. It looks like Soul wants to fight this. They're going to use a Sound Barrier as well.
All right, Zumba getting chucked down despite the fact the Sound Barrier was in play, and Miro with the Primal Rage. Good positioning from him. Look at this foresight. He knew that London were about to push the high ground and try and control that, so he changes his course and his direction and gets up there to block them. Now the tactical advisor for Fleta to come in here, but it's going to be a Transcendence over the fight. Birdring with a Dragon Blade, but Fleta has a trance of his own here. Both Zenyatta's using ultimates. That's a big connection though. Helix Rocket finds its mark, and now London are trying to stream back in onto the point, but looks like they're on the losing end of this fight. Gesture looking low, and Wuyal about to join in, but he'll be shot down. It's a pulse bomb committed to get rid of the Diva, and now Soul Dynasty gets set up here. That should be it. Just the Prophet now. Moving on to the point, there is a Mei in play. It's Jayhong now with that Ice Barrier to try and stall things out, and London are lining up. One by one, they're going to have to push their way in. It's Nuss next up to the plate. Bidoshin comes in on the Moira here, and Gesture lands.
And he's got Primal Rage, so he's going to be able to stay alive a little bit longer, just trying to knock Fleta out of position. It's going to leave Huyal on the point with Prophet, Bidoshin there as well, as London looking to stabilize here. And man, there was an opportunity there for Soul. Fleta comes up with a big kill, allows Zumba to actually get back in mech, because when they're trying to take the point, they don't have Miro. He's coming off of respawn. Fleta picks up a big kill. Zumba in his baby Diva allows to get back in a mech, but they're not able to take it. They get so close. You see the percentage they've made. So you did have some support changes, though, for London to come out, obviously, to get back to the point.
Oh, dude, that's the pick, man. Pulse bomb thrown in. Prophet doesn't connect with his one, but the fight is happening up on the high ground. It's all down to London to try and equalize this one and get themselves back in this, and they may have just done so. Munchkin gets removed by Prophet, who has a moment now to take a breath and survey the situation, but Flatter's doing just the same thing from the high ground. Tactical Visor is there. Throws down the biotic field, but actually doesn't get much healing out of it. Now the Transcendence. This should pave the way for Soul once again to go in for an attack. They've only got one tick per one fighter, but Dosage from the high ground. It's a shutdown, but Zuma responds. A two-man self-destruct. Both DPS players for London have been removed. They double back quickly to the door. They were being flanked out by Bedosian. He's down. Wuyo now gets a nano boost, but it won't be long-lived as he gets desuited, and the Discord Orb is applied for the extra damage. Gesture in. Bergring trying to follow up the backside here. The Winston already down. He went so quickly, and that may well be it. That's it! For a team that's more offensive in nature, Matt, considered to be aggressive, the London Spitfire forced Soul to pay heavy tolls to try and get each of those ticks.
Yeah, only 27 seconds left in the time bank as well. But I thought you saw it, no, right? We talked a little bit about it in the pregame. No, Munchkin, can he get that space for Fleta? Now, Munchkin comes out with a very good first half. 16 limbs, 10 final blows. Allows Fleta to get position on that 76. Only dies 3 times, right? Trying to contest for that high ground. So, see at least early, the DPS players for Seoul Dynasty showing up. Bedosian's a player who, on the Zenyatta, we've seen have some big games for the London Spitfire. Comes up with that one big final blow on a Fleta, but that's it.
We thought it would all have been done and dusted prior to that last fight. Jaehong's May actually buying the precious seconds that were required. Especially London Spitfire May, of course. The stall out there was there on the point.
Yeah.
Obviously, they threw themselves in there. Ice block was applied. Soul were really struggling to get more than 1 tick per fight.
The issue is they were able to get the stabilize off of that stall with the Mei and the Moira and whatnot, but at that point you had to go back to the spawn, switch everything back up, so you've reset the ultimate on like 3 players at that point, and then Seoul Dynasty has such a big advantage. It'll be Toby who plays on defense here to kick things off. Jaehong playing Zen. It's a very on either of these maps that we have in the pool for Assault, whether it's Hanamura or Volskaya, you can definitely play Ana, at least on first point, on the defensive end. Very effective with the Biotic Grenade. When players come in to dive, also the healing at range, definitely beneficial.
You feel like there's not much need for a speed boost on defense here as they're playing around a static point. Don't really need to be running too far. The disengage can help, but there's kind of nowhere to run as defenders on this map, except off the point. So, the London Spitfire now have a good idea of what they're working with in terms of time, what their margins for error are. Holding Soul to only about 27 seconds of time bank, that's a huge boon for them going forward.
And Huyal comes out as Hans with the beginning firing a Sonic Arrow, seeing if Seoul Dynasty is going to play rather close. They are not. Now, one of the only differences you see here is London's going to be playing Mercy with Nuss on the Mercy. You like Mercy when you do have that Widowmaker in play. Damage boost, Bird Ring also obviously provide a ton of heals. Nice leak dart from Toby on the Prophet, but he pops recall right out of it, gets back towards the point.
Sloppy from Soul to wake Prophet up in that case there. You can see London actually baited an engagement in that opening. And Gesture's like, yes, they're going to jump on our backline. This is my time to go in. What a beautiful execution from London.
So what London did there is they sent Gesture in Prophet to the point, and then at that moment, the Seoul Dynasty, they realize obviously the cut they're running is good at diving the Widowmaker in the backline. They go and dive the Widowmaker. They probably didn't expect the Mercy to be back there as well. Then Gesture just jumps in right on top of those players. Huyal there to protect Bird Ring. They're able to just survive all the way through that as Nuss getting very close to Valkyrie here, that healing. I think if you see some ultimates come online here for London, especially like the Infra Sight in this Valkyrie, you'll see them pop it right away because they probably want to change off this comp.
Yeah, they're probably going to try and take advantage of the fact that they're ahead, and Fleta, he's already down. Miro on the low ground, forced to jump up, and Gesture's kind of left on his own as he tried to join Prophet. Not much to be done there on that low ground. It's all about pressuring this point. With Zumba being desuited, Fleta's been able to rejoin the fight now with Jaehong looking worse. Already gets the stick. No kill though. Transcendence is drawn out of the Zenyatta here, which is less than ideal for Soul. And London are more than happy to continue to apply pressure. Miro just got chunked down. He's forced to use his own Primal Rage. 2 big ultimates are forced out of Soul, and they're still losing players, Matt. Miro returns to the point to realize that he's bereft of teammates, and now he needs to try and make something of the situation himself. First tick coming up.
And they're putting so much pressure on trying to get Bedosian, but he's just being pocketed by Nuss, just flying around, and they're letting everybody else drop on the point. This has been fantastic for the London Spitfire. They will take point B with 6 minutes and 23 seconds left. in the time bank. And, you know, they dedicated so many resources to Miro with like Primal Rage. So they have sent Fleta, Apodosian. But it's just Birdring, you know, hitting some shots at range because they're putting so much pressure on the Zenyatta that he's just getting healed up by the Mercy. You know, it's very hard to kill that Zenyatta when they're getting pocketed by Mercy. Birdring's just putting shots at range, getting these players weak, but Ocean's just hitting like 1 or 2 shots, finishing them off.
Well, look where he's playing from. This position is
He got knocked off the high ground and pushed down here.
And still makes the best of it. And that's what's incredible to me, because Munchkin just falls straight into him. What I love about that fight from the London Spitfire, Matt, is that they engaged their win conditions very early on that second point. We saw the Transcendence forced out of Jaehong immediately, and then Miro was caught out of position and mostly evaded by Birdring on that Widow, who just circled back around to the front door and started wrecking people.
Yeah, they used the nano boost onto Miro, and like right before they did it, almost at the same time, I believe Zumba actually gets demeched and then killed by Prophet. So you didn't have that Diva to go up and try and put pressure with him. So you ended up kind of burning the Transcendence, and then you burn the nano boost, right? And then you just try and push on in. But I think if London doesn't win that fight, I think they switch off of that comp. Because you don't pop Valkyrie right there, and then you probably have Birdring switch off of that, and Widowmaker and go to either Genji or 76 up on the high ground. On the defensive end, it'll be London running the pretty much same thing they ran last time. So they're going to run Genji Tracer, Nuss on Ana here. No, nothing different from Seoul Dynasty on their offensive attack as well.
Initially, the Spitfire tried to play that sort of Junkrat Widow composition on defense, so this is the change for them, I guess. They eventually switched to this comp when they realized it wasn't working out. This is actually good early trades here for the Seoul Dynasty. They've gotten rid of Gesture already. Miro fell in response, but Birdring is not present, so it's only one Genji to rule them all right now, and it's Splatter. Found Ocean a little bit too close there. Perhaps discretion the better part of Valor in this case, and the London Spitfire realize they've already lost the fight.
Well, it's interesting, you know, you want a Widowmaker, right? When it's just like you need that one pick, and one pick kind of decides it all. With 40 seconds left on the attack for the offense, if you run Widowmaker and Birdring hits one shot, that's pretty much the game there for London. So it's like, maybe go back to your original comp would have worked.
Yeah, I mean, well...
And then he switches off to 76, then back to Genji. So
could have taken a leaf out of New York's book and playing that really cheeky, like, forward hold with 2 DPS to get an early pick. Jaehong was not happy about that earlier in the week. 23 seconds are on the clock. This would be the last push for Seoul here. They get an extra checkpoint, Matt. They're going to be laughing all the way to the bank.
Nano boost available here for Nuss as well. Probably going to go on a Gesture as soon as the push comes in. Yep, there it is.
That's a nano boost here. Gesture knows exactly what he's looking for. Doggedly pursuing, and he's going to force the Transcendence out of Jaehong again. Jaehong hasn't been able to press Q at his own volition this entire map. However, the turnaround has been very good. The backline for the London Spitfire got taken down very early on in that fight, but Prophet is trying to make up for the deficit. He eventually falls to Miro here. Toby moves to the point into sound barriers. Wuyal and Birdring's trying to get away. He needs a couple of seconds to heal up with the Orb of Harmony right now. He can't help Wuyal at all. The mech's down, so is the pilot, and this is good for the Seoul Dynasty for the time being. Birdring forced into another reflect, and that's the Transcendence he was hoping would come. Now we can play around that a bit more confidently.
Yeah, and he's getting very close to a Dragon Blade as Gesture will come back off of the respawn. Prophet connects with a big pulse bomb there on the Zumba, going to use that self-destruct. They'll take out Nussa as well, as Seoul Dynasty having some reinforcements, but it's going to be a Primal Rage when Gesture knocks them off the point just a little bit, as London will hold on the defense. The initial push, you know, when we actually saw Nuss give the nano boost over to Gesture, and we actually saw for a second that Miro was coming in, and then we switched right off. Nuss actually sleeps Miro before he lands and makes it all the way down the back of the staircase, able to stay alive a little bit longer.
And it was almost looking pretty dicey there at one point for the Spitfire. They'd actually been forced off to the point by Zumba's self-destruct, because Zumba uses his self-destruct after the bubble from Gesture had been put down. So that was actually starting to expire. So both Gesture and Birdring at the top was Prophet, sorry, they realized that they actually had to try and get onto that low ground in front of the point. Obviously Genji can wall climb and stuff, but they'd given a couple of crucial seconds over to Seoul, but they weren't able to convert with them.
Yeah, and Prophet actually had used the Pulse Bomb to demech Zumba, and then I think he had already used his recall, because we actually saw from the free cam POV, instead of just like recalling as soon as the self-destruct's about to blow up to just avoid any damage whatsoever, he actually ends up just using 2 blinks and getting down to the bottom, and then his recall comes off of cooldown, and then he's able to recall back up onto the point,
Which is just as well, because he was down to about 40 to 50 HP at that point. So that's not terrible from the Seoul Dynasty, Matt, considering they had a minute to get as much as they possibly could. No recorded percentage captured on that second, so it means that the Spitfire will need to get the first tick on point B only.
It is still really good for Seoul. I mean, you had 40 seconds left, and you were able to even get a good shot at taking point B. But London, I mean, 6 minutes and 20 seconds is an eternity here. Especially if you take point A, you get a few extra to go over to point B. Birdring will be playing McCree here, interesting. So they baited out the dive in from Soul with a Widowmaker.
They want to do it with McCree, and it's even nastier. With the flash, Birdring can do a heck of a lot if Soul bring the party to him.
They're trying the same thing again. They're putting Gesture and Prophet over on the point, then baiting the dive in. This time, the defense of Birdring doesn't work out as well. But if you're London, you'll take these one-for-one trades, right? I mean, if Birdring wanted to, he could switch to 76, get right back into the action and faster, but it's going to be Nuss getting a res off here, so even better.
That could be big. Now they have the man advantage, the Spitfire, as they pressure in. Having McCree return to the battlefield, that extra damage is going to go a long way. Munchkin's forced to blink away, and Prophet wants to pursue, but Flatter was there, so he thinks better of it. Quick recall, back to his team. Play a bit more conservatively around the point. The Spitfire have control. The onus is on the Dynasty here to wrest it from them. Oh, Pulse might make that hard.
They have held on long enough, though, where Miro is back into the action. So that man advantage that London did have, not exactly taken advantage of here. Is they will get a D-Mech onto Zumba. You'll take out Jaehong as well. So you get both supports here, but it's just Prophet alive. He on Tracer can get behind enemy lines. Let's see if everybody else can get back. If Prophet wanted to, he could even wait for Jaehong to come off of spawn, try and spawn kill him.
Flatter's aware of this.
I think he's trying to wait for Jaehong to come out or just time this. And
Munchkin is always looking back in that direction.
Because if Prophet can just put some pressure on a Jaehong, potentially force out Transcendence of him coming like out of the spawn pretty much.
Prophet hasn't really done much in the backline yet. He's now shown himself here, and he's actually shown himself right in front of Zumba, who'll try and chase him down. That's going to force a couple of abilities out of that Tracer. But Birdring's found Miro. Flatter being forced back, and he needs to just play around this corner conservatively. Oh, a Nanoblade already? Oh, he's going to go in for it. But Ocean's there in the backline, but he gets sort of knocked off course there. Nice work from Gesture to make it hard for Flatter to get in. Flash as well. Everything thrown at the angry Genji, and it works out. Unfortunately, in the process, with two supports of the Spitfire eat a big self-destruct. Now there's no healing available for London. They need to pave the way on damage and nothing else. And it looks like it's going to be a little bit too much for them to bear. Prophet's going to have to try and get a mini health pack. He doesn't even get that far. Miro pursues him to the end. And Zunba just bailed Soul out of jail.
Oh, yeah. That was a huge self-destruct there, able to connect with both supports. It's really rare you see a self-destruct to have both supports, especially, well, in that little area. I think it lands in the courtyard, and obviously Zenyatta pretty immobile. He's not able to get around that corner in time. So we still have Birdring here, playing McCree. It's kind of worked out thus far, though. I mean, he has picked up some kills, put down some damage. It's just where do you really get good use of a Deadeye here on point A on Hanamura?
Gotta be tricky. There's a lot that's going to obscure the field of view. And Toby, the one to find Birdring. It's responded though. So support is down here for Soul, and they got Birdring to res up. That Mercy's been so important for them on this map so far, and now Prophet can run right in the back lines. Deadeye connects. Munchkin's down. DPS is lacking for the Soul Dynasty, and they got nothing in terms of healing. This fight is over.
And they're able to just blow up Birdring at the beginning because Toby actually hit the sleep dart on a Huyal, so you don't have that defense matrix there. So Birdring's just getting assaulted by Fleta and Munchkin. But they do take the point. 3 minutes and 30 seconds here to get a tick on point B. You're going to have Bedosian getting a Transcendence here, and I know that's about it in terms of ultimates. You'll probably have Gesture get Primal Rage too. The side of Soul Dynasty, you have your Primal Rage. You're going to have Nano Boost and Transcendence again. So this first fight for London may just be trying to force some ultimates out of Soul.
Yeah, or bait bad positioning from Soul as well. Like a poor engage from Miro would be good. I feel like a junk rush into hero switching here. I don't know if they want to keep this McCree.
And you don't mind if Soul just kind of pushes in, you don't mind whether they use Dragon Blade, Nano, and then maybe a Primal Rage, just trading your Transcendence for those 3 ultimates to come out. That would be a pretty good trade for London.
Flatter forced into reflect. Miro can actually take that high ground. Flash thrown in, but Birdring's so low. McCree is vulnerable and not very mobile. It's tough to play him in these circumstances. However, it's a 1-for-2 trade with Birdring being brought back up. London are at full strength right now. Flatter has a Dragon Blade, but he's in the spawn. It might be another Nano Blade for Soul to try and get themselves out of this one yet again. Trading still. Jaehong down. Gonna be a self-destruct running over the point. A great flash. Flatter shut down. Oh, he's low. We actually found Birdring despite this. Birdring wasn't able to complete the kill. The Nano Boost might have made it hard to get the extra damage in, but now it's just Sunba. This is it for Soul. They need to get back on towards the point of pressure, but no! The margin was way too thin. The London Spitfire start off strong. And really, Matt, you had to say it was the first Spitfire defense that really gave them this map.
And then here on their point B attack, I thought that the big plays were made by Nuss. It's kind of rare we talk about Mercy here in stage 2, but he's able to sit right on top of that overpass, right above the point, and just heal those players up. And then as soon as Flooding uses that Dragon Blade, has the Valkyrie to get up in the sky, provides the healing to Jester, Huyal, and Prophet as they're on the point, allowing them to take point B.
Some big plays for the Divas in this map as well. We don't always see Wuyol in this permutation of the roster for the Spitfire, but it's working out well. First map down, more to come after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Seoul Dynasty is now the only team which is still undefeated.
This crowd is going crazy for the Spitfire.
스테이지 1보다 일단은 더 좋은 성적으로 달리고 있긴 한데 방심하면 안 될 것 같아요.
준비를 많이 해 오셔야 될 것 같아요.
London Spitfire, Seoul Dynasty.
It's a battle of behemoths.
프로피 선수도 견제해야 되지만 버디링 선수를 좀 더 조심해야 될 것 같아요.
플레타 선수가 잘하는 건 맞지만은 저희가 흐름을 타면은 저희 팀 딜러도 더 잘하기 때문에
Birdring somehow finds a shot on Fleta.
그렇게 굳이 무섭진 않아요.
일단 비두신 선수가 굉장히 공격적으로 플레이를 하는데
애초에 서울팀 약점은 런던 스피파이어이기 때문에
The Spitfire are out there doing aerial acrobatics.
하던 대로 하면은 이길 것 같습니다.
저희가 런던 상대로 아직 1점도 아직 못한 상태인데요.
이번에는 좀 살살해서 1점 정도는 드릴게요.
이제 이번 스테이지에서는 저희가 1점이 아닌 4점을 꼭 가져가겠습니다. 기대하세요.
Well, they've got more than 4 maps this entire stage, but they it's unlikely they're going to get 4 maps in this particular series. I mean, like it's going to be Okay. 3-2.
After that one, it would actually be impossible.
That would be
for them to
literally
get 4.
impossible.
Yep.
There you go. Thank you for that.
There you
one.
go.
Can't
No problem.
happen. Mathematically not an option, so check yourself, Sunba. That was really interesting, though. I like the way that the Spitfire started off with their defense on that last map. They had a very defensive composition. They started with a Junkrat and Widow, but Matt, they switched that and they actually found much more success with a different comp.
Yeah, they found a lot of success with their dive. Just going with Bird Ring on the Genji. And
What a
Prophet.
shot.
Look, it's a very aggressive team. We knew that during stage 1. They started to excel in stage 1 when they started mixing in the Junkrat and a little bit more of defensive, play. Just a little bit more versatility.
Do you see a bit of that in Boston as well? Like a team that sort of wants to run their dive comp defensively, and actually if they try and play a really defensive comp, they just don't really
I really like what they did is when they baited Soul into getting aggressive and diving onto Bird Ring.
It's like, hey, here's our backline, and I'm not there as Winston.
Yeah, and it's just like a different way of going about it. Like, if London wants to force fights, you don't want to just kind of jump into Seoul when they're in their comfort zone and just kind of like sitting back, and they can allow you to make the mistake, right? But then when they sit back and they're like, okay, let's try and bait them into jumping on Bird Ring, or a Widowmaker who, in theory, they think is back there alone. It's like that allows Seoul to dive in, and then when London kind of goes back on the defensive end, then it causes that chaos that London wants, right? So it's just a different way or a different approach about getting the same thing.
And I feel like, yeah, the Mercy also can bait to a degree, because you saw that attempt from Miro to jump onto them, and then Mercy's there healing Bird Ring and sort of sitting back, playing fairly safe. Trying to kill a Zenyatta that's been pocketed by Mercy is very difficult, and Winston actually just straight up can't really do it, even if you're weaving in those punches.
What was so big in stage 1, it's the Harmony Orb on the Mercy pocketing the Zen, and they just have so much HP. It's kind of what effectively tanked my SR as a Tracer Genji. Constantly diving those two and having them heal each other. Eventually, a few mouses later, I got the hang of it, but I just switched over to Winston. I was like, screw that, I'm not putting myself through that anymore.
And now you're out here in Overwatch wanting to build ramps, Matt. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, it's Prophet and Bird Ring. So you got double hit scan here who comes out from the London Spitfire, which is interesting. Don't see many double hit scan lineups too often anymore, but I think,
They'll be anticipating Fleta, right?
And especially because Soul's not going to run Mercy with it, so they're just going to have that Harmony Orb on Fleta. If Fleta gets anywhere near the point, you think that double hit scan is just going to erase him, especially with Bedosian, probably putting an Orb of Discord on him.
We've also seen multiple times Pharah struggle against D.Va on this stage, always getting those barrages eaten up and sort of taken down. It's like a death sentence. But so far, the Spitfire have set themselves up here on the point for the time being. You can see Fleta is just peeking in from the window out towards the side, does catch on to a couple of these players on the Spitfire with these rockets, but no considerable damage being done yet.
I was just going to say, Fleta can't come into the point, right, because he's playing Pharah. It also is very difficult for Munchkin to go into the back line against a McCree in 76 and a Zen. So just a ton of damage, that consistent damage coming out there for the London Spitfire. Oh, yeah.
I feel like if you don't take the point in the first fight, Pharah becomes vastly less useful.
I was going to say, this is where Soul should just go dive. Like, I feel like the one thing you can take advantage of it with double hit scan is to run Genji Tracer, because they're so difficult to hit and so fast that it causes a lot of problems.
Tracer pressures McCree pretty well. We saw that on the previous map, but now support ultimate's been completely layered in, but it gets two! Bird Ring with a Deadeye! And Fleta and Miro fall. The Genji is going to have to wait a little bit longer on the Seoul Dynasty to have the impact that Fleta was hoping that he would. Interesting support ult uses though, Matt. I'll be honest with you. Do you think it's justified there to see both the Transcendence and Sound Barrier drawn out at that moment?
I think they were extremely dedicated to winning that fight. I think now you know that they're going to have Sound Barrier on the other side, and you know that Fleta is nowhere close to a Blade, that you're probably going to build up both of those ultimates again by time that Fleta comes in with the Dragon Blade, so I don't exactly hate it.
Alright, well, Bedosian having to back away the self-destruct there, giving him pause for thought. And the rest of the Spitfire also had to disengage somewhat, but now the tactical visors in. Sound Barrier is drawn out of the Seoul Dynasty. Nuss is a Lucio pancake, but Fleta is also blasted to smithereens as Wu Yao connects with that self-destruct. Jaehong falling in the Spitfire. Look, they're in no hurry to move to the point because Seoul aren't really pressuring them to do so.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to really be the ones that make the move here, as the point is still in the favor of the London Spitfire. Toby and Munchkin get on it. It's going to be Wu Yao and Prophet moving on in. Just the consistent damage that Prophet's been putting down onto players like Munchkin and Fleta. Just been a big difference as London holds on. And that's exactly what London wanted, Mitch. They held on to the point, and they're now going to have Transcendence for this Dragon Blade that's going to come up. You also have a Deadeye to zone these players up.
frustrating for Fleta. He'll be forced into a reflect if he gets caught out with a Deadeye. But now the Soul Dynasty are actually fighting on the point, which is very different to how they started out the last fight, Matt. Now they're going to try and pressure a response from the Spitfire. And it all starts with this. Miro jumps in here, trying to attempt to break them apart, but Fleta gets nothing! Not a thing! His first Dragon Blade for the map, and it may well be his last. It's connected with the Helix Rocket and taken down. Zumba at least gets his revenge and actually finds two. The Divas in this match are really a highlight, but Prophet is just showing us a little bit of finesse, a bit of class here. Connecting with that Helix Rocket and trying to go for the tactical visor, but all he had was two big tanks in his way. Munchkin, man overboard. That's not good for the Soul Dynasty at all. The self-destruct will create some space briefly for Zumba and let him get that D-suit back. And Wuyao has to try and get out here while protecting Nuss. They'd like to keep him alive. Nuss is healed up to full, so not terrible for London. They can go again pretty quick.
No, Nuss makes it to the health pack, so he's going to get healed up. Prophet switches off of 76, goes over to Tracer. Wuyao throws up a self-destruct in the sky, going to get a mech back, but that's going to be a big kill. Prophet takes out Jaehong. A lot of extra healing and damage out for Soul Dynasty. It'll be a sound barrier as well here for Soul, as this fight may be it.
Gesture Primal Rage eats up most of the damage of that Pulse Bomb. We won't be too disappointed with that result. Munchkin had no one else to really stick it to at the time. There's no point using it on Birdring's McCree. He was already low. And Soul have bought themselves at least a stay of execution now. London and Spitfire have to group up. Bedoshin coming in with the Transcendence could be critical in this next engagement. They can play on the point with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to need it because Flood is going to build up towards a Blade. 80%. You're going to be able to farm off with some of these tanks that are going to come on in. They're going to use it a little bit early. They want to dive in deep. They're going to get Jaehong again. A lot like NYXL. They focus down Jaehong early. Same thing here from London.
Have they found the weak link here in the Soul Dynasty? I never thought I'd say there was one, but Jaehong's been dying first in all of these fights, especially the last two. Flat of the Dragon Blade. It looks nice. It's for show. That's about all it's going to get in this round. And the London Spitfire start off very well. I just found it interesting, Matt. There were a couple of fights there where the Soul Dynasty were more interested in trying to jump on the Spitfire instead of sort of transitioning to the point and sort of forcing a response. We saw that one fight where London actually never really had to go back to the point. They just sort of disengaged from Zumba's self-destruct and still won the fight.
And the one fight that you're talking about is when they're trying to push like the bridge and they just avoid the point. The issue is that Toby, it was like Toby and Miro alive, and then I think there was one other player, I think it may have been Munchkin. And if Toby doesn't go with them, they're diving in with no healing. And then if you leave Toby on the point, those two players are just going to drop on the bridge, and then they're just going to kill Toby on the point.
Losing,
the point right back.
So losing Jaehong at the start of the fight is forcing Soul to be aggressive and move in with that Lucio.
Otherwise, you get zero. I mean, look, they could have taken the point there, Soul, but you would have just killed Miro and Munchkin on the bridge, like in a 2v4, and then just killed Toby, and then you just stagger yourself even worse, right? So then you're just giving even more ultimate over to the Spitfire. It'll be Soul Dynasty who takes control of the point first, just setting up on it, not actual control of the point. So Miro dives on in. So Miro goes in, and Zumba is nowhere close, and neither is Munchkin. So Miro just dies at the gate there with no team help.
At this stage, Jaehong is flinching every single time he sees Prophet. He's been terrorized by him for this entire map so far. And you can see he's very interested in staying as safe as possible. You can see the Prophet is on the hunt. Jaehong's off the edge. Dust gets another big one. Got a very crucial boop on Munchkin in that previous round, and this time it's Jaehong to start the fight. Jaehong can't catch a break, Matt.
Yeah, just it's so aggressive and so fast coming from the London Spitfire, as Soul never gets an opportunity to take control of the point. And I think what happened on that first side when I said Miro dies at that gate is Munchkin was actually there with him at the start, but he gets bursted down so fast by Birdring that he has to recall, and Zumba just doesn't go in with him. So that'll be a pulse bomb eaten up by Zumba there. A nice play by the Diva from Soul Dynasty as Soul trying to work their way around the outside to the point.
Oh, that's very clever by Miro. They're just hiding behind the stairs. Prophet wasn't ready for that. And now jumping back into the fray will be the Spitfire. Look at them, the death ball that is London. Again, throwing itself now at the Soul Dynasty. The sound barrier going to help a lot with this. They love to brawl, they love a bit of chaos, and Birdring needs to back away. Micro Rockets, though, probably a little bit more than he could chew. And Zumba again, huge performance by this man. Shutting down Birdring once again. Really trying to match his opposite number there. Now it's just clean up crew time.
Yep, it'll be London backing out as Soul takes the point here. So London will have their Transcendence. Birdring making a change, no 76 here go back to Genji. It seems like they're finding a lot more success London with their dive, right? It seems like they always start out
crazy.
Shocked. Yeah, it seems like they're always starting out with like McCree or Widow or 76, then immediately just pivoting off.
But it's funny, they're a team that we can see that they want Seoul to make the first move, right? But they're a dive team. Those two things that are just not congruent with one another. They kind of contradict themselves. Fletter getting knocked away by Nuss, but not off the edge, so this might be his opportunity here to go in for a bit of a Dragon Blade. Waiting for Bedosen and his Transcenders to finish Jaehong down at the start of the fight. Fletter struggling. The star players from the Seoul Dynasty are being extinguished one by one here, and London Spitfire have definitely got their number. Zumba back in the mech, but again, it's too late in the fight for him to have any meaningful impact. Well, and the Spitfire will take control again.
And I think we're seeing why they switch off of the McCree in 76, because I think London is realizing, or at least they found something in Seoul Dynasty where when their dive comes in, they know there's no protection for Jaehong in the back. Maybe it's just Toby. And instead of playing a 76 and just trying to chip away at the players coming in to dive you, they're just going aggressive in the back. Look at that, Jaehong down yet again.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's the jump comes in from Gesture and just splits off a few players because they're trying to go in with Toby, and it leaves no 1v1. It's what, Wuyall up against Jaehong? I mean, any Zen is going to lose that battle up against a Diva.
Fletter, no final blows in this round. In fact, in this map. It's a struggle for him. 5 eliminations, 6 deaths.
And look, when you don't have your Zen and you're playing no Genji a lot of the time and you're relying on that Orb of Harmony and moving around, it's not like Tracer, you have a recall. You're going to see those players tied together. A nice pick there from Munchkin on a Bedosen. It's a big one there. Nuss will have Sound Barrier, though, for this next fight. You'll also have a Dragon Blade from Birdring.
Speed boost timed very well there from Nuss to allow Birdring to get back to safety. He'd already used his dash, but he was still in danger. Now the Sound Barrier. You see the Spitfire happy to let the point be taken for now because they can choose to start the fight however they would like. Jaehong now coming with a Transcendence. He thinks that's a better option than dying first in this fight, and I would tend to agree with him. But the Dragon Blade coming in over the top. The Pulse Bomb already found Jaehong. Everything's being thrown to the Zenyatta on the Seoul Dynasty, and Birdring's just the icing on the cake right now. Toby flattened. London Spitfire take off.
So London uses their speed boost to get out of that corridor, right? Because they want to disengage. They then get Sound Barrier. What they do is they use Sound Barrier, and then they use another speed boost, and they're starting to go towards Seoul. And as soon as the Transcendence comes in, they hook a hard left and go to the point instead of diving in, which now forces Seoul to come into the point with that Transcendence. By the time they get there, it wears off. Birdring pops the Dragon Blade, kills off a few players.
Well, Spitfire's map weren't designed to break the Sound Barrier, but they definitely gave Toby and Jaehong a heck of a lot of trouble in that match. It really feels like the Spitfire have a read on Seoul Dynasty. They know what to expect, how to play around it. This is a team that's done their homework, and it shows. Half-time now, we'll be back after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
It's been all London Spitfire so far, as Seoul simply has no answer for their firepower. Welcome back, everybody. London has taken all 6 maps of the regular season up to this point. Seoul Dynasty still looking for that first map victory. I got the desk back with me. We got Bren, we've got Reinforce, and a bit of a surprising score at the half. I think we were expecting a little bit closer. Bren saying, nah, I saw this one coming.
Not quite. The Oracle is never wrong.
The
Let's
cleaning.
be real.
But Johnny, you said Seoul, this was going to be their day. What are the issues they're running into in the first half?
Well, I think they're playing into London's game first and foremost, because we see Seoul playing dive, like versus New York. They favor the soldier a lot. But this time they're forced to dive onto Birdring, because so far Birdring has been the star player of London. And so they're forced to play sort of aggressive. And Miro and Sunba are not really overpowering Gesture so far. So I think that the overall front line is dominating Seoul right now, and Seoul has to change things up drastically.
Justice for Reinforce. Reinforce is not a coward. Fantastic signs once again here in the venue. Let's take a look at some of the big plays from game number 1, because it all started on Hanamura. When we saw this map was loading up, we knew we were in for a treat. Here's a look at Prophet. He played everything. You saw the soldier, Junkrat coming out of time. We had Birdring on the Genji. Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned the dive strategy. It looked like Seoul was trying to jump in. London much more successful on their dives, but how did London clear off the points? Because on their initial attack, it was perfection on both attacks.
Yes, across the board, I feel like they came out of the park with a strategy that Seoul were not expecting. I mean, this is just dirty. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you just wish for, you know, you dream about when you're playing Tracer. But London actually brought out a unique strategy that they've never done before. They ran Widowmaker, Birdring on Widowmaker alongside the Mercy on the attacking side when they were attacking on Hanamura. Super interesting, because Seoul actually really had the wrong game plan when they were running into it. They kept going in, like you said, Johnny, with the engages, the hard dives onto the back lines, and all London had to do was wait a little bit and counter dive with Gesture and Prophet most of the time. And that's how they won a lot of these team fights on Hanamura. That's how they kind of snowballed it out of control. They were constantly at like a one-man advantage because of the counter engages, time and time again.
Is it a comp change that you can make in the second half, knowing what London is going to be bringing to the table?
Well, coming for the second half, we have a map like Gibraltar coming up, and I'd like to see Seoul perhaps swap to the Widowmaker, because then you're like, okay, you want to play the hit scan game, you want to play the Soldier McCree, then maybe go for the Widowmaker, because then you're forcing London to swap up their change of pace, of course. So we have Kingsor and Gibraltar coming up, not really a dive, okay, Gibraltar is a dive-heavy map, but still, I'd like to see the Widowmaker come out.
Now, at the professional level in Overwatch, the compositions basically mean your initial fight in control is going to be rock, paper, scissors. Whoever has the stronger comp, probably going to be set up to take the point first. It looked like London was set up to take the point first in both scenarios, and in fact, they were switching up their compositions. They came out with double hit scan. Fleta on the far had no chance in the opening of game 2.
This is something that they should have anticipated, to be honest, actually, because and I was speaking to Captain Planet, our stats guy, as the game was going on, and he told me that they've actually, you know, London Spitfire, when they run this set of players, the GC Busan core here, they always go with a double hit scan sort of maneuver. So it was a bit confusing why Seoul decided to run Fleta on the Farah, but as the game's just progressed onwards, they made the adjustments. You can see later on, Birdring and Prophet were playing this sort of hard dive with the Genji and the Tracer. Basically, hard dive meaning you have tons of mobility on these heroes, which means you can get right into the nooks and crannies of the enemy team. And it was a lot of adjustments that London were making throughout the map. I was very impressed by their adaptations throughout. Yeah. It's something that you expect from Seoul more often than not, but this time they were sort of outplayed, outmaneuvered a little.
So when you say adaptations, walk me through a few of these examples. We saw kind of the initial picks, but what changes were coming out throughout the game, Johnny?
Well, for example, then we saw them swap over to the Genji because they realized, oh, we can't walk up with double hit scan. It's not, we can apply pressure, but it's not going to be the most effective. So they swapped over to a Genji, and they adapt according to the map layout and such.
We have 12 of the best players in the Overwatch League on the stage right now. Who has been the most impressive after watching our first 2?
Well, it has to be Birdring, because I think London has invested the most resources into Birdring. So overall, I mean, this guy who just pulled out the Dragon Blades, and we of course saw the Widowmaker, which is such a threat. So Birdring by far is my nominee for player of the match.
Early nominee for player of the match at the half. We were talking about it. I was like, is it Prophet or Birdring more impressive? Bren, you also said Birdring.
I did, but it's so hard. It's such a hard decision to make because the entirety of this squad is playing so well. And I don't want to say that London's... I did predict London were going to be winning this 4-0, but there's still an opportunity for Seoul to come back into this, and they have been showing good signs as well. I've particularly been looking at Zumbo. I feel like he's actually playing the best diva I've seen in quite some time, actually. And again, another core focal point for this team to focus on as to how Seoul can potentially come back into it. But if we're assuming London are going to be taking it all the way, Birdring definitely a contender for that MVP.
If you look at some of the numbers, Miro has been targeted. He has been shut down throughout our first 2 games. Johnny, how do you get Miro back in the mix? Because as Bren said, Zumba's having a pretty good series so far.
Well, it comes down again to Miro being forced to jump onto Birdring because he's just such a threat. So maybe play a bit more passive, and as I said, Gibraltar is coming up. Put Fleta on the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
Then Miro doesn't have to play aggressive. He can tone it down a bit, protect Fleta, play a bit more anti-dive perhaps, and don't necessarily have so much pressure on him to jump early.
Well, the bad news is Gibraltar is game 4. Coming up next is Kings Row. If you're a Seoul fan, boys, how does Seoul get back in this series?
I think you've got to be pretty pleased, to be honest. I mean, again, it's a good map for London. It's a very good map for London, not just because
Not
Kings
really.
Row
They're
is
1 and 3, Bren.
You're going to argue with me this? Listen, Johnny, I'm going to ignore the statistics and go with my gut here.
I love your research, Johnny.
That I like this stuff. I like that you can refute my heart here with your dirty
Tell me what you have to say.
facts.
Tell
Get
me.
out of here with the raw
Tell me.
truth. I'm not interested in it.
Yeah, Oracle,
good map.
tell us what
It's a
happens
good
on
map
Kings
for them.
Row.
I just believe it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Bren believes
my
it.
personal
I don't
belief.
believe Bren.
Johnny
We'll
refutes
see
it.
how this
Just
one
go
all
with my
plays
heart.
out. Make some noise, LA. We got the second half coming up right now. It is going to be the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Spitfire. We'll see you in just a moment. Let's go places.
The London Spitfire have a 2-0 lead over the Seoul Dynasty, and I don't know any way else to explain this match other than the 2 words, Download complete. The Seoul Dynasty have not taken one map from the London Spitfire this entire regular season. They are just completely shutting them down. And I don't really know what the Seoul Dynasty need to do to get back into this game. I mean, a monkey rich of some sort. Me personally, I'd like to see Zomba jump on Zarya or something like that. He has one of the best Zaryas in the world. That'd be cool. Anyways, we got a whole nother half to go. So let's go ahead and send it back over to our casters, Uber and Mr. X.
Thank you, Malik. Perhaps slightly prophetic thoughts there from Malik.
I want Malik's sweatshirt.
Yeah, that's sick, right? That's he's literally ripped.
I'm coming for that, Malik.
You're ripped, bro. I mean, to be honest, like seeing the Zarya on a map like King's Row, which is next, would actually be pretty good for these guys. But I mean, you know, we talked about Seoul not having taken a map off the Spitfire, but that story goes even further back than the Overwatch.
Oh yeah.
We talked about last season that Lunatic High, which were Seoul, essentially, had never taken a map off of GC Busan, which is some of this roster. So I mean, the monkey has been on the back of Seoul far longer than just the Overwatch League.
And in a map win doesn't exactly get that monkey off your back.
No.
Like a serious win, like we're not out here celebrating maps. This isn't a...
And the monkey sat on their backs drumming like a good Chinese massage, man. Like hammering it in there, and they're being reminded all the time. Now, let's talk about Jaehong a little bit, because obviously we saw him getting picked off at the start of a lot of these fights, but statistically it's clear to see that he still played very well. The problem is that he wasn't able to play much. Like while he was alive, he was having a big impact on that Zenyatta.
That's the thing. I mean, his stats are good, but it's just he's dying too much, which... You know, it's kind of on the team to protect the Zenyatta. Like, you know, whether it's your D.Va, whether it's your Lucio, your Tracer coming back, like, there needs to be some protection for him. He can't just sit there as a turret and just take everybody out. It's just not the way it is.
So every time Miro jumps in, Prophet sees Miro trying to dive on London, Prophet just goes around and gets Jaehong.
Yeah, they've just been dedicating 2 players to the back. And the thing is, you know, let's say you're the Seoul Dynasty. You jump in onto the London Spitfire. You have Bedoshin and Nuss back there, both supports. Probably have Huyal back there as well. At that point, you're leaving your Zenyatta in a 1v2 against most likely either like a Tracer and a Genji and a Winston. Those 2 heroes are going to kill the Zenyatta faster than you can do damage to the opponents, and then they're going to come back to that fight. So it's a trade that you're never going to really win if you're Seoul.
I mean, you either get one clip by the Tracer or, you know, the Winston just dives on top of you, melees you, and then just tasers you down. So, tough. It would have been very, very difficult for Jaehong to stay alive in the backline earlier on. And, like, to say that he's a weak link does not mean that he's a bad player. It just means that he's the most vulnerable part of the Seoul Dynasty, which is being exploited.
I think it's more of a team thing with them getting back there to protect him more than anything. London on defense, I'll have Gesture on Orisa, and you'll have Birdring play Widowmaker. So we see them run this. We saw it in stage 1 a little bit on Nambani that used to run a comp like this, or Birdring would play 76 and just kind of run around up on the high ground. They kind of do the same thing here on King's Row. Use that high ground and just let Birdring kind of get lost. And now with all these tanks in the equation, see how Seoul decides to play. It's gonna go right into the corner. And it looks like they got like body blocked. They weren't able to make that jump.
Huyal just booped him mid-flight, so they didn't make it across. Munchkin though, hit the low ground, now he's trying to return up, but the damage is too much. He couldn't even vape his way through that one. Taken down by Huyal, but Gesture falls to Miro. Now the Reinhardt can set up on the point here, which is great. It's going to give the Seoul Dynasty a defensive zone to work around behind that shield. And Prophet, you cheeky little man, getting a little bit too close to Zumba, who spots him out. The Micro Rockets find their spot. I mean, Zumba's had an incredible series so far. Really the biggest performer on the side of Seoul Dynasty thus far. Let's see. Birdring's on that high ground on that Widowmaker, but he can't shoot.
Yeah, he can't do anything. I mean, Miro's just standing there with his shield up as Seoul getting very close to taking the point. Nuss will use his Valkyrie. That's a direct response to Jaehong using Coalescence. They get up to the high ground.
Prophet, hello?
Do you not
hello?
Say Prophet? Come on.
Oh man, Zumba's just doing so much work right now. Prophet was like he wasn't even aware that the D.Va would still be there. Oh, how about another one? How about Bedoshin? Zumba is just the man right now to fix all the problems. Great use of the D.Va's mobility there, while the rest of Seoul sat on the point and captured to apply pressure. Nothing the Spitfire could do.
Now you'll see some changes come out from London. I know Gesture started off on Orisa for that fight. He went over to Winston, probably trying to get back into the fight a little bit faster as you see Munchkin connect with a hook on the Prophet. Birdring will play Genji yet again. Nuss will move off of Mercy. He will go over to Lucio. So you probably keep Prophet on the Junkrat just because you have that tire. And in the Streets phase of this map, you can put down a ton of damage on that Reinhardt shield. And then now, okay, so Birdring's going to switch off again. Genji, go over to Tracer. So we have seen Birdring's Tracer in the past. Very good on this hero. Probably you see him play Tracer knowing that Prophet is going to stay on the Junkrat. If he was going to play something like Genji, to expect Prophet to switch off eventually and go to Tracer.
Riptire in, he's found two! Jaehong and Flatter didn't know what hit him, and Miro needs to charge his way back home. I mean, it's kind of nice, like the Spitfire, obviously having like two players that can step into that Tracer role. I mean, to be honest, we saw that from the Outlaws as well. Like Lynx are, you know, can show that Tracer when Jake wants to play Junkrat and vice versa, so gives you a lot more flexibility here. Miro has that Earth Shatter coming up on Reinhardt.
And Fleta is going to play Pharah here, which is, you know, a very good pick right against a Junkrat and a Tracer. Not a lot that they can do up in the sky. But who is healing him? You have Jaehong as Moira going to use a Coalescence right now as they deback Wuyao. But I know Toby can't really provide much healing up in the sky to Fleta either.
I don't know what Jester's trying to do here. I think he didn't expect to lose Wuyao when he did, or Nuss going down, but he was willing there to make space for who? For Prophet? I don't think so. He wasn't in a position where he could get part of that fight either, so perhaps just to stall and die on the payload there. Gesture with the Primal Rage, but it doesn't really garner too much more for the Spitfire here, as they've not come up with a response to the Dynasty.
They'll be able to get a touch, because you see where Birdring is. Should be able to work his way all the way back to the payload. Doesn't exactly have to hurry. But Ocean actually gets taken out though by Munchkin, so you lose that Transcendence. You probably were going to try and Transcendence onto the payload. And you see Birdring just
got to give it up.
Darts right on by. Yeah, you're going to have to give it up at this time.
With interesting that Bedosha was standing so far forward. He did get hooked, of course, and it's tough. You punish bad positioning easily with a Roadhog, but as a Zenyatta, he was further forward than any of the rest of his team here. So a couple of picks, a couple of errors here on London are being exacerbated because Sol has all the tools to punish those kind of positioning errors like a hook and such.
And the only time London is really stabilized was off of the back of these Riptires from Prophet. He's going to use another one here. Connects with one, it'll be Birdring with a Pulse Bomb who takes out Munchkin. Now they'll be able to push up, but I mean, anytime they don't have a Riptire, it's really been Sol just dominating.
All the Prophet's kills, Matt, are from Riptires right now. 3 final blows, all from Riptires.
Okay, so now you see some changes. Birdring will play Widowmaker, gonna sit in the back, put some shots down on Fleta, who, as we mentioned, doesn't have no Mercy up in the sky, or even, you know, the benefits of his Zenyatta Orb. Nice Earth Shatter there from Miro, connects with 2. That'll get the payload rolling again.
But now you're starting to sweat a little bit for the Spitfire. Bedosha opts to take the scenic route back to spawn. Now the Sol Dynasty will encroach very deeply in Spitfire territory. Fleta will set up here and ideally hope that he can drop in behind the London Spitfire while they are otherwise occupied. For now, though, Munch is just going to keep them at arm's length here. The whole hog's being served up. Apple in the mouth and all. And now it's going to be support ults being layered out. It's time for the fight here. Sol Dynasty trying to end the map here and now. The Transcendent's been thrown in. Fleta down though. Didn't quite get much out of that barrage as he was hoping. Miro doesn't have any support ults to back him up, so he needs to step back, but Gesture charges him into the wall. He falls, and now the Spitfire will be able to finally evict the Dynasty from the Foundry.
And they switch to triple tank. London Spitfire. Prophet comes off of the spawn with 0 ult charge towards his grab, builds up to 91% in just that one fight. That is insane.
I mean, Zarya has one of the slowest charging ultimates in the game based on sort of the proportion of damage or time she spent using primary fires, so that's astonishing.
It's going to be a grab in less than a minute with an average energy of 65, so getting charged up, putting down a ton of damage. They're not going to expect this grab. It comes so fast. It's a big Earth Shatter from Gesture as well.
Okay!
All right, there's everybody.
That fight was the definition of extra AF. What's that about? Okay.
May have not needed that grab there, but you know what? If you're building up to it that fast,
it's about sending a message, Matt. It's about sending a message.
So now you see Munchkin go off of Roadhog. He's going to play Zarya, and you're going to have Zunba play Diva here. Which, you know, Zunba, like Malik said, a very good Zarya player. You're going to have Munchkin take up the Zarya responsibilities. Birdring's going to go into Junkrat, so it's going to be, you know, Mirror comes outside of...
You know what he wants. For that Earth Shatter, Matt.
Yeah.
Just swinging Hammer, hoping to displace a couple of people. Obviously, Hammer knocks people aside, which is really good if you want to get rid of that Reinhardt shield. Is this the time? No, Mirror gets redirected in midair. He still gets 2 knocked down, and Nuss doesn't need to get charged to be picked up. Prophet having fallen now, Mirror a little bit out of position, and Birdring is able to clean him up, but he's there with Wuyao. Miro a little bit frustrated by that one, but the rest of his team are in position to get the job done. It's a fade forward for Bedosha, but now it's going to be a fade to Black as he hits spawn. Jester jumps in, Wuyao now to rejoin, and the Spitfire in full stall mode, and it's working out. Swimber, de-suited, Nuss getting the job done. What a beautiful performance from the Lucio here from London. Clutch play at the final toll of the bell.
Could not be any closer. Fleta will play Tracer here towards do have a Graviton Surge from both sides. Prophet's going to get close to his. Both support ults here, though, for London. You need to get good value out of these grabs here, Mitch, from both sides.
Nice for sound barrier as well. Could be a bit of a brawl, man. I can feel it coming. That was an Earth Shadow there used just off camera there by Gesture, but Verdrick's found Munchkin. Now we're going to have the Coalescence being used from the backside, which means Miro needs to back away. His shield isn't going to protect him from that Moira. Oh, Gesture wants to brawl. He wants a bit of biffo and he'll get it. Gets the Fire Strike finish on towards Miro and there's 20 seconds left.
Yeah, and Munchkin used that grab when the Earth Shatter came down, so there was zero follow-up there from Seoul Dynasty. As now Seoul has both their supportals. They have a Coalescence and they have a Sound Barrier. Are they even going to make it back to the payload? Prophet's going to sit up on the high ground and nail this grab from behind.
Prophet now to dive in. This is Sparta, ladies and gentlemen! 3 people caught in the Graviton Surge and the Sound Barrier thrown in by the Spitfire just for good measure. But the back cap was underway. There's actually 3 players from Seoul who went all the way into the back lines to try and get the payload home. But now they've been discovered. It's all been a ruse. And the London Spitfire were ready to tackle them as they tried to finish the map. Zunba knocked out of his mech here, taken down. The overtime bar is depleted. And the London Spitfire complete the hold on their home ground of Kings Row.
That was such a sick grab there from Prophet. I can see it on the mini-map. You know, everybody from Seoul is getting ready to use that speed boost and go in behind the Coalescence and then eventually use the Sound Barrier over on the point. As soon as they start to move in, half of the team just stops moving. They just get caught up in that Graviton Surge.
I mean, and the rest of Seoul just had to keep running. The 3 players that didn't get grabbed because they realized what was going on. And they realized they'd have to opt into a 3v6 situation to stall out for the rest of the team to come. By that point, in fact, as soon as you see the Graviton being available for the Spitfire, you generally know this is done unless somehow it gets eaten up by Zunba, which didn't happen.
No. You saw Moira from both teams, I know, for an extended period on that map. Usually we don't see Moira as much with D.Va in the mix, but in large tank compositions we see Moira because you can charge up that Coalescence really fast. She has a really high healing rate as well.
You notice the Coalescence forces positioning out of tank-heavy compositions. You can't any longer stand behind Toby on Reinhardt with that shield.
Yeah.
The Coalescence doesn't care about any of your shielding. It is the antithesis to a lot of these tank compositions that use things like shield. Defense Matrix also doesn't do anything to Coalescence. So it is a very powerful ultimate, even when used offensively, which is not generally its primary, you know, the way its primary use.
Yeah.
But you can use it like that, and people can't stand up against it all.
You see Seoul Dynasty here on defense, and this is where you see, now remember in stage 1, back when they would play Junkertown, they would bring Wakid in because they would want to keep Fleta on that Widowmaker, and then Wakid could play the Junkrat. This time, you don't have those lineup changes coming in from Seoul Dynasty. Munchkin will play the Widowmaker here, which will have Fleta on Junkrat. We were talking to Fleta, one of the best Widowmakers we have in the Overwatch League. We're going to see what Munchkin's going to be able to do. As Birdring will play Junkrat on offense, it'll be triple tank. That comes out for the London Spitfire, with Bedosian playing Moira. So you don't really, with Reinhardt as well, you don't really have anything that can challenge this high ground of Munchkin in the setup from Seoul Dynasty.
Munchkin will have the same dilemma that Birdring did on his defense, is that it's hard to get around that Reinhardt shield. Again, Zunba, perfect, just boops it in. The hold actually kind of helped London in a way, if that's even possible, kind of pulling some of them across to the other edge. But Prophet sits in the back line, knowing that Zunba will be looking to try and chuck down some squishies. Great foresight from Prophet, shutting Zunba down. And now the Spitfire will just take a break. But it's time to pressure forward to try and get around that Orisa barrier.
Well, they're pushing towards this back corner because it doesn't really give a line of sight onto Munchkin. He has to stand out on the platform in the open. As Miro's getting hunted down here by Prophet, puts up a barrier just in time.
The debate was always going to be there, and the Clydesdale pony gets away. The Seoul Dynasty will have to push back onto the point now. This Riptide should pave the way. Gesture and Nuss are no more. And now we'll have to clean up care of the boy. Fleta, Zunba going in, and Toby just making sure 6 players will stand for Seoul.
Birdring's he switches off of Junkrat, goes to Widowmaker here as he's going to try and hit some shots from range. Now goes back to Junkrat, so they're going to try maybe their initial strategy. I actually really liked, I don't know if you caught it, but when they were trying to push that high ground by the Orisa, Birdring actually just blasts himself up with a mine to try and just shoot down above the barrier. It was really nice.
But getting around that Orisa barrier, trying to circumvent it in some way is important. Obviously it's convex, so you can sort of get into the backside. Birdring, what are we looking for here? Doesn't have a Riptide, so just wants to get a high ground position. Prophet's already got himself nestled in behind that Orisa barrier. Now the damage is starting to accrue. Birdring, watch out! It's gonna be nasty! Fleta just falls, and now Birdring chasing down. Sometimes death comes on a peg leg, Matt. And Birdring again still has pole position here just to rain down damage. Munchkin, good little transition towards the side. He actually picked off Vidocin. Not an easy target to connect with when under duress, but it won't really be enough to keep them in this fight.
You notice when Birdring is up on that high ground, and I believe it's Munchkin and Toby there, he's also got Wuyal there with him. He throws out the mine and doesn't blow it up yet because it actually forces Toby and Munchkin to split because Munchkin can't get back over to Toby to try and really protect him from the Diva coming in to take him out because if he walks on through, he's just going to get hit with that mine. So it's a really smart play there from Birdring. It's just those little things, man, that separate some of these teams.
I don't know about you, but as soon as I throw that mine out, I'm pressing right click. You know I'm all about that.
Believe me, I know.
Gesture here with 81%, so close towards that Earth Shatter. Miro, having played Orisa, switches to Reinhardt now, which is absolutely reasonable, but Gesture wants a bit of a fight again. Gets the charge in. Knocks him down. Miro now being put up against a corner. That's not where Reinhardt wants to be. A lot of damage there. Some free charge up, at least for Munchkin, but Miro should be cut down here. Wuyal trying to pursue him. Gets desuited in the process. Good little bait there from Soul.
This is London backing on out here as Prophet moved off of Roadhog. He's going to go back to Zarya. It's going to be Coalescence that comes out here.
See, it forces them back.
Yep, and the Rip Tire comes out as well. So this is a very scary situation that Soul's in. They're forced to back up. He's going to go really high with the Rip Tire. He's going to go right into Jaehong.
Coast to coast. It will be res. It will be res, but Toby's now used that ability. That's okay. 80 charge for Prophet, by the way. This guy knows how to get the most out of each and every one of those projected barriers. And it doesn't really fancy shooting Miro's shield, but he does need to be dealt with though. The Reinhardt knocked out of position. This is dangerous. He went in for a charge. I think it got booped off course. Miro doesn't really get to the side, his direction at all. But Jaehong now commits to the fight with a Transcendence here. This will force a sound barrier out. Good shield. Only Vidocin getting knocked to the ground. Great response by Gesture here. The Reinhardt battle's definitely being won out by the Spitfire in this round.
You see it's going to be the grab that comes out as well from London, Mitch. They push on forward, getting close, taking this checkpoint B. Looks like Soul's going to back all the way out. And there it is. That's going to be the second point taken for London. So they hold on to their Earth Shatter. Vidocin will earn himself that Coalescence. And brought up a great point, that Earth Shatter from Miro only connects with one. Vidocin gets knocked down. London's able to fight on through it. Wuyal gets trapped up top. That's Fleta.
Oh, that was Eaton.
Yep, that was Eaton. Yep, nothing comes out of that.
Nice work there. Wuyal gets rid of that Graviton Surge. Is to no avail. That was pretty impressive considering the situation.
And they get nothing out of Tire too,
That's
so
big.
nothing out of grab in Tire.
2 ultimates shut down for Soul Dynasty. That's terrible for them. And that's a big Earth Shatter as well. Look who gets knocked down and way in the back line. It was Jaehong, a very deep penetrating Earth Shatter. And now Birdring again. It's time to get some chaos! Toby and Munchkin have already fallen. The Mercy's not going to be there to provide it. That's so important healing. Sunba won't get back in his mech. The self-destruct, really noticed by anyone in particular. It doesn't really seem to bother them at all. Micro Rockets connect with Jaehong, and now it's going to be Miro trying to get out. It was an attempt from Wuyal to knock him off course. Miro is not at the fight at all. He's sitting in the back of the room. He needs to get back to the fight while the rest of his team are struggling to hold on. But a skin of their teeth. Munchkin down. I think he blew himself up with his own right-click, Matt. Not ideal. Zumba to be desuited. Jaehong just gets cut out of the fight, but Wuyal gets put to sleep through the defense matrix. It doesn't matter. This series is already over. History repeats itself. And the Soul Dynasty once again pull up short as the Spitfire looking cool, calm, collected. Love to see it.
And when you run Zarya, you need to get great value out of those Graviton Surges. London with Prophet on Zarya, they get 10 kills with their grabs. Soul Dynasty with Munchkin, no kills out of those Graviton Surge. Big difference at the end, no kills out of that grab that gets eaten up. And you also had that Tire getting blown up there for Soul at the end, gave London a huge advantage as they push the payload the distance.
We said there are big playoff implications for this particular match, and map difference is important. There's still one more to come after the break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omened by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Zoe, and London is currently 3-0 up. But as those guys were taking to the stage, we on the desk were discussing the decision of fielding Wuyal over Fury. So, of course, during halftime, I got to speak to the coaches from the London Spitfire, and they told me that Wuyal actually has a really good track record against the former Lunatic High players. And that's why they decided to put him on stage today, as they really wanted that experience he has against those players. Now, of course, I also had to ask about how those two players compare in their play style. And they said that Fury is a lot more kind of passive, more of a supporting role. He's like going wherever he's needed, and you know, he's just like playing a little bit more back and a little bit more on the peeling side of things. Meanwhile, Wuyal is out there, he's leading the charge, and he's usually a lot more proactive and definitely more aggressive. And I gotta say, it's absolutely working out for the London Spitfire. I've been watching Bren, watching that game, and he's been the happiest man I've ever seen him be, and that means something because he's usually rather smiley. But you know what? We have one more map to go. Are you guys ready? Well, so am I. So for all the action, we're heading back to the second best thing Australia has to offer, which is Mitch and his sidekick, Mr. X.
What's the first best thing? That's definitely me. I don't know anything else. It's definitely not Vegemite. It's definitely not Abby.
I've had Vegemite. I don't enjoy it. I would say you're slightly better than Vegemite.
That's me. You're the sidekick now. How's that feel? I didn't know that was the dynamic.
It feels great. It feels great. Every Jordan needs a Pippin. Every Kobe needs a Shaq. Yeah, that's right. Kobe was the name.
Every Aragorn needs a Frodo.
I've never seen any of those movies.
Oh, really?
No.
There you go. Exposed. Okay, so, I mean, Wuyal, they're actually getting a bunch of final blows in that last map. So I feel like it's really good to hear that from Sorry, because we really see that manifest. Like, Wuyal, especially on map 2, Matt, on Lijiang Tower, very aggressive, very much an initiator. I mean, we talk about what the dive looks like for the Spitfire. Wuyal's always in the mix there, but we saw Munchkin on Zarya in that previous map. We saw Prophet on Zarya as well. Was there a big difference between the two?
Oh, without a doubt. I think Prophet was just a beast on Zarya, able to land those grabs, 10 grab kills like I mentioned. Average energy between the two, 61% for Prophet, 30% for Munchkin on the other side. So double the energy, 10 plus more kills with the grab. You have to say Prophet got the edge there in terms of that Zarya battle.
And didn't it make a difference? So many of those big plays were highlighted by Prophet, and then we saw Matt a couple times where, especially towards the end of the round, Soul had a Riptide, came in, got blown up by Prophet. They had a Graviton Surge, got eaten by Wuyal. They weren't getting nearly as much out of their ultimates as the Spitfire were in this tank composition.
Yeah, the tire and the grab at the end really hurt.
You hate to see it. It
really
feels bad.
Yeah, it's really hurt Seoul Dynasty's chances of holding on the defense. They get something out of those two ultimates. Maybe something happens. You don't know. London Spitfire undefeated on this map in Stage 2. Seoul Dynasty was as well, up until they lost to NYXL the other day. So let's see if Seoul can get a win. Obviously every map counts, right? I mean, this changes things the whole way. As we just saw them lose to New York, so not exactly sure it's true.
They lost Gibraltar to New York.
Yeah.
Right? Come at me, Troutman. You and your stats. I see you out there. So, no, that's Ben, of course, our stats guy, by the way. So, in all fairness, this has been a very good map type for Seoul in general.
Yeah.
Gibraltar, of course. So, I mean, that's good to see from him. Considering in stage 1, by the way.
The victory.
Classic. In stage 1, Seoul Dynasties were, I think it was Seoul, their worst map type was actually a score. I'm not sure. I mean, that was Junkertown, so you know.
And they did lose it to New York. Because if you remember Hollywood in that series, that was when Sabo B was playing Farah, and they were trying to get towards that point, and it didn't really work out too well. And they ended up losing Hollywood. They ended up winning Gibraltar, forcing that map 5. So we'll see Seoul Dynasty yet again on Gibraltar. It'll be Fleta on Widowmaker. You talked about how good he is on this hero, going up against Birdring, like one of the best Widowmaker battles you can dream of here.
Yeah, that's the kind of sort of fantasy head-to-head you think about when you're sitting over break and going, man, I want to see this. Well, talk about the other head-to-head. Prophet's just dealt with Munchkin, so this is going to slow up the Dynasty a lot. They're going to just sort of stick to this high ground. That's not a great start.
And it has to be the most frustrating thing about playing the London Spitfire is, one, they're extremely aggressive, so they force chaos. And 2, Birdring and Prophet can play just about anything, and at a very high level. Like, you know, when we talk a lot about, you know, who's the best at X hero or, you know, X role or whatnot, like, you always have those 2 guys up there in so many of the different heroes that they play. So they don't have any kind of dip in terms of performance, as they will get a DMAC here on the Wuyao. They'll get Gesture in Wuyao as well. So 2 big kills on the tanks.
All right, it's been a very successful fight here for Seoul. In case the kill fee wasn't already indicating that to you, losing Munchkin early on was a bit of a blow, but you see how they set up. They methodically move into the server room. They kind of feel like they have an advantage in those closer quarter area. They can sort of dictate how the fight works. And it looks like the London weren't ready for that level of aggression. You see them backpedaling for 60% of that last engagement.
Yeah, and you will get another fight here, as it'll be Valkyrie that comes out from both teams. So London uses it at the start, try and get in deep as Miro gets hit with a pulse bomb. He's forced to back on now, gets very low.
Oh, Gesture down. It was a little flick from Munchkin to get the job done. And Birdring now, yeah, not much you can do there as Widowmaker. Not the best angle for her. Jaehong's missing. No, the Transcendence from Bedosen has definitely been important. Now the bubble thrown down. Nuss being pressured off screen, and that's a nice little pulse bomb thrown in there. The extra damage definitely goes a heck of a long way. Wuyao dealt with Toby. And now Prophet's dancing on the payload. This Transcendency really should lock things up. Jaehong's probably a little bit annoyed that he has to use it at all, if I'm honest with you. But the Gesture were coming with a Primal Rage here. You can see Birdring just in the little corner there was getting a couple cheeky shots onto the point. These 2 tanks have bought a lot of time, but it may not be enough, and it won't be enough to keep the Spitfire in this fight.
They did end up forcing some ultimates out, though, from Seoul Dynasty. They'll swap off of Mercy. They'll run Lucio here, as Prophet is still here. He's taking out Fleta. He's darting around towards all of these health packs. They're just trying to contest the payload just a little bit. Now he'll back out.
Just keeping an eye on things now. I mean, you're seeing damage. I mean, Wuyao's doing literally almost no damage from that direction. He's just trying to keep them honest. Self-destructing over the top. Doesn't really land where it was intended, and Prophet's able to deal with Zun, but that's a lovely pulse bomb. And Prophet just starting to get rolling here. Thought about Jaehong, but was happy enough with zoning Jaehong back out of those sight lines. Didn't really feel the need to follow it up. Also, it's Jaehong, so you're not going to run directly at the guy. You're just going to die.
It's interesting. Okay, I was going to say Toby playing Mercy here with a Genji Tracer combination, but you're going to have Fleta go back to Widowmaker. Maybe they expected Birdring to switch off of it. You know, maybe go 76 set up on the ship, but Birdring will stay on Widowmaker here. He'll have Infrasight, so he's going to give London, obviously, a ton of information here. Know exactly where everybody's coming from.
Well, a very brief foray that was for Miro. Seeing the sights on top of the shuttle. Birdring. Again, just changing position very often, but look, he puts himself in harm's way. Didn't see Zunba coming. The silhouette of the Demon Mech obviously wasn't something that he was aware of. Still the Spitfire, though, cover over that error. And this is where it gets scary for attacking teams on this map, Matt. Normally, you can just shut defenders out of the shuttle phase. You have control. You force them into filtering into this part of the map through these very small apertures. But now, they can set up using multiple levels. There are literally 3 levels of verticality that the London Spitfire can use.
And Seoul realizes they have to close the gap in terms of getting up to that high ground, so they're going to go Genji Tracer. Now they're going to have Toby play Lucio here. Now right at the beginning, that's Jaehong. There's that dive. It's too strong right now. Oh. There's just no protection.
Zumba doesn't know where to be.
Yeah.
He, he possibly could have saved Toby maybe if he had defense matrix there, but he'd obviously used it already.
In the previous fight, when they got both supports as well, it was just Nuss speed boosting Gesture up to the high ground and was able to just kind of run through both. As I believe Birdring has a very good idea that Munchkin sitting down there, as they'll back out yet again.
Okay, notice actually that trap was triggered. In fact, Munchkin didn't shoot that. It's interesting. I thought Munchkin was not shooting Birdring's trap on purpose, just to not be revealed. He set it off himself, so mustn't have seen it. Maybe not had the light of sight. Profit, no. Young money, cash money, billionaires, let's go! J-Hole getting blown up by the pulse bomb there, and he was waiting again. He's rewarded for his patience. What a clutch sound barrier here for Birdring. He was at about 1 HP before that one kicked in. He'll have a chance to get away, but more importantly, it made it very, very hard for Soul to kill him. And in the meantime, they lost Toby and Fletter. It's all coming up trumps right now for the London Spitfire, or Millhouse, depending on what your fancy is. Huyal removing Munchkin again, another one fight surely. Nuss, a little bit of an overextension. Gesture's already in the thick of things right now. Having to back away, and you can see very hastily that Huyal defense matrix thrown in to protect him.
As London will have to back out here a little bit. This will be the fourth time they really push back. They'll answer back though with a Transcendence. They want to get aggressive yet again.
Fletter, Dragon Blade time.
6 seconds left.
He knows now it's his chance to go in. He's found 2. Fletter, get a D-suit here on Huyal, and that's a pretty good job done. He found both supports. The timing was excellent. He knew when the trans was over. Fletter comes in with some more. This guy, a little bit of a quieter series for him, Matt. Hasn't been dominating like he did so far this stage, but that's a good resurgence for him, and it has gifted Soul the final stretch now.
I just feel like our expectations are so high of Fletter game in and game out. Like, he makes so many plays that kind of difficult for him to play at that high of a level every day.
And then every time he makes a big play, we're like, oh yeah, that's just Fletter.
That's just Fletter.
Well, it sucks to be in that position, really, isn't it?
Well, it's like, yeah, you heard, I think, they did that roundtable with like Jake and Dreamcatcher and Baby Bay, and they talked about like how difficult it is to just be a DPS player in the Overwatch League, and just there's so much practice time, like, and just be consistent day in and day out. It's just so hard, especially against this level of competition.
Fletter there realizes he's not really going to make any progress with Bedosin keeping tabs on him. So it's a return to the backline for him now. A brief stay. A note here that the Spitfire are trying to set up on that top high ground on the right-hand side there. They're going to use that as well as Huyal on the left to try and collapse here, which is going to give them a little bit more of an ability to select their target. They don't have to kill tanks first necessarily. Using the high ground, I mean, it's anything. The same in Star Wars as it is on this map, mate. High ground is very important. And that's Super with 3, okay! It looks like somehow the Spitfire weren't ready for that, and it looks like they're about to unravel, just like the Christmas sweater your grandma got you that you didn't really want. Maybe you can make it into a beanie or something like that, but that's rough.
It happens far enough away that London will be able to get out of those spawn doors, you would think, but still, it's not ideal. Miro's gonna have primal rage. Should be able to knock some players back. Munchkin with a pulse bomb. Gonna connect on the gesture.
Big hit, gesture thinks twice. A bit of a double take back towards spawn. Again, there'll still be time for London to get out and contest this payload, but it's gonna be very, very close regardless, and they won't have the chance to set up. Pulse bomb just thrown in there. Fletter just casually ignores it. Not even worth his time, apparently. Double Transcendence, but once again, Jehong gets it right. He uses his slightly later, and Jester goes down. Again, the healing available isn't going to be enough to cover over burst damage, and Fletter has that in spades. Now the primal rage in for Miro. Self-destruct, it's unlikely that it'll run too much here, and no. London aren't able to really stave this off too much longer. Zumba does get desuited as a result, but that's about it. Gesture sidles up onto the payload, now faces the scrutiny of the entirety of the Soul Dynasty. Here come the reinforcements, though. The cavalry is here. Birdring on the McCree.
And you have Nuss using Valkyrie, just keeping Gesture topped up. You're going to be able to use that Valkyrie to heal up the rest of the players on the cart. Just trying to stall this one out for London. Nuss in a very difficult situation, as always, able to heal up he's able to heal up Profit and Huyal during that, as both players were low. Miro was in the back trying to push out Profit on the Widowmaker, but some nice healing there from Nuss, able to keep both those players alive. So Soul does make more progress here than they did against New York. Against New York, they finished the map, 2 checkpoints, 74.53 meters in terms of progress, so they do get a little bit further than they did in the New York series.
You can see here that self-destruct. Fantastic.
High ground.
Miro keeps all 3 of those players up there, not aware of what's going on. Sometimes, especially in the chaos of the game, you notice that a lot of pros turn their music off in-game. They don't have the in-game music on because you need to hear footsteps and sound cues like that. But obviously in the heat of battle, in situations like that, it's possible that the Spitfire had no idea really where that self-destruct was going to come from. It was actually placed perfectly to kill whoever was on that high ground.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to track that self-destruct as it's flying through the sky, right?
You see an icon kind of like, but
and you don't know, like, especially in that position, because it's so like risky, right? Because if you drop down and it doesn't catch the lip, then you're going to die to it. If you stay up there and then obviously what happens, you're going to die. So it's like a 50-50 chance.
Just really smart. And you know what Miro did there is probably not something that you would discuss to too great a degree when you're setting up that kind of play. That's the kind of move that very much is made instinctively or without prior discussion. So Miro knew exactly what he had to do, was try and occupy the people on the high ground, because at that point, London had 3 players on that balcony. They don't see any reason to give up that very important strategic position just because a Winston's up there tickling them. And that's exactly what Miro wanted them to think. Kept them there, and I guess that was their fault.
The guys on the high ground could also think that self-destruct is just trying to go behind the payload to force some of the members from the guys on the ground to split off. Some of them to come to them, some of them come to back, not expecting to connect with the players up on that high ground. Love it. Some mind games here from Seoul. It didn't give them the full map completion, but it definitely gives them a fighting chance at least getting a map in this series. It would be the first map they've won against the Spitfire for the whole season. And what New York did against Seoul, which gave them a lot of trouble, is that double sniper. They ran Hanzo on Libero, and then obviously Savior B on Widowmaker in that matchup. Gave them a lot of trouble. This time, though, it's going to be just a dive that comes out from London. We're going to have Bedosian play Ana here, connects with a big bio grenade, but Seoul's able to fight on through it. That was a massive opening, though. Getting the sleep dart on Sunba, you could see the door was wide open, and Gesture was more than happy to step over the threshold. Toby very nearly went down. It was very, very fortunate that Miro was there to protect, and that they managed to damage London enough to stop them from really just snowballing that fight immediately. That would have almost been a first checkpoint straight away. That's rough. Toby will be playing Ana here for Seoul Dynasty. We've talked in the past, how good Jaehong's Ana is. One of the best, if not the best Ana in the world, but Zen's so important to the meta right now. You have to have that Zenyatta on your squad. Toby's been saying for ages he's wanted to play more than just that Mercy in stage 1, and now he's able to do so. That helped really late there for Jaehong, though, right? Is he? That's that aggression from Wooya. Yeah. Once again, both supports are down, Matt. Picked apart. And the dive, it's a proper dive. Sometimes the D.Va doesn't always dive in with the Winston and Genji. Sometimes the D.Va stays midway between, like Coolmat, for example. He really tries to split his time between back and front line. But so this time, Wooya wants to be in the mix. And it's so hard to deal with a dive like that one. First checkpoint here for the Spitfire. Flawless execution. Yeah, it's like just a dash through of Jaehong that comes in from Prophet, and then Prophet immediately turns his attention over to Toby. Try and take him out, because then obviously he's not able to really heal Jaehong through that when he's getting picked apart. Well, defense might just make it come. Yeah, and then Wooya just comes in and takes out Jaehong and then turns his attention to Toby. Including D.Va in your dive against an Anacomp is so smart, because you shut down potential bio-nades that normally is like the best peel that a Zen and an Ana can have. I mean, D.Va and Zen are the 2 highest pick rates for a reason here in stage 2. Obviously, Zen's so important to your team's overall damage and healing. It'll be Prophet. Prophet Nanoblade here. Yeah, easy done. 3 kills. Zumba being desuited and fed to the monster that is the blade. And Miro gets slept as he's trying to come from the backside, because they did have Munchkin and Fleta playing all the way deep back by where London was spawning. They were going to come in and try and pinch with Miro. As soon as Miro gets slept, they ought not to. They're going to use a nano boost there as Wooya tries to block. They missed it. Sunba coming to the point. It doesn't matter though, Mitch. They're going to get 2 kills right away. Both supports yet again dead for Seoul. That's so sick for Prophet. He's had 5 kills in the last 2 fights, and it doesn't look like he's done there. Miro drops in, who knows it's all but done. An attempt perhaps just to hit Bedosian in the back line. Not going to be fighting anything. 5 minutes and 12 seconds. The London Spitfire. It is hard to find fault with them today, Matt. They have been lights out in this matchup. They've really just kind of owned Seoul Dynasty over the last 3 times they played. Whether it's GC Busan back in Apex, and then into stage 1, now into stage 2. It has been all London Spitfire. Ooh, Jaehong with the long-range shots. That's more of what we're used to there from Jaehong. That's the legacy of Jaehong, to be honest. Takes out Prophet. It's crazy though now, like for Jaehong, who's obviously a slightly older player, seeing these young upstarts rise up, like your Bedosians and your Jonaks of the world. I'm sure he's feeling threatened. He's feeling like, I'm going to take my throne back, You're going to have another Nano Blade here if you want it for London, but maybe you give the Nano over to Gesture and try and force out the Transcendence. They're going to just use the Dragon Blade here. This time it's from Seoul, though. Oh, he's gotten to the cookie jar, but he gets put to sleep immediately. Bedosian shuts down the rampage that would have been there. However, Prophet doesn't really get too much himself. He needs to wait now for the Mega to respawn. Munchkin blinks away, and Zunba steps into his place. The Seoul Dynasty find a bit of stability at just the right time here. This is really when they need to knuckle down, Matt. This could be over. It could be a complete sweep series if they don't find something special and hold 4 minutes straight. And Birdring will play the Widowmaker here, and Prophet will switch off. Genji go to Tracer, so they usually kind of like Genji at this part of the map, right? Because there's just a lot of verticality, but Gonna try and put a lot of pressure. We get another Fleta versus Birdring battle in terms of Widows, and it's been about even. Just Fleta hitting actually more of his shots now than Birdring.
You see Birdring's calling for his team to dive in there. He knows that, that there was a Tracer and a Winston in that little low room. Gesture went deep for that one, already had half of his HP removed. Now he realizes he needs to peel. Maybe this is one of the weaknesses. Gesture's obviously very aggressive on this Winston. He left his backline a little bit isolated, but that was good. The peel was definitely there.
Yeah, Miro went even deeper than Gesture. Went all the way back. And then instead of when he got weak going back to his team, he actually opted to keep going back towards that London Spitfire spawn. The issue is nobody's there with him. So you can get away with this aggressive play from your tanks if everybody commits and goes, but when you kind of split off like that, that's when it gets tough.
Oh, Fleta just backing away. As a Widowmaker player, you know that fortune favors the bold, and Birdring is more than happy to opt into these straight duels. Now the infra side is going to tell him exactly where Fleta's going to be peeking from. Fleta may not have heard the voice line from that, and he gets taken down. Birdring just manipulates the situation to be at his advantage. He has an inherent lead. And now it's going to be pretty much a clean-up here, man. There's not much to be said or done from the Seoul Dynasty. They will be wiped from the face of Gibraltar. And Nausenberg gets at least a decent on Wuyo, and it's a desperate attempt now for the Tracer to come in, and Munchkin can't do much. He's slapped in the face! The gauntlet to complete the series. Wuyo there as well, looking pleased as punch, and why wouldn't he be, Matt? The Spitfire. It's tough to find an aspect of this game where they weren't the better team.
Prophet finishes 38 limbs, 21 final blows. The DPS players from Seoul Dynasty finish with 18 combined. And London just, sometimes they come into these matches, Mitch, against some of the other teams here, and like, oh man, they're so shaky. And when you see them play against this top competition, though, they show up and they always remind you why they're such a dominant squad.
I mean, it is crazy, right? And we saw them drop that series to the Gladiators earlier on,
yeah.
and that was a shocking one for many of us, and it didn't seem that close on many of those maps, man. But here, they just tightened up so much. They had such an understanding of the team that Seoul Dynasty is and exactly how to exploit that to their advantage. I've got to say, seeing a bit of Mercy here as well, you can see that she still has an impact over the game quite heavily. Nuss there obviously finishing the game on that Mercy. Great Lucio play across the board. The Zen battles were epic. Everything you could ask for here, if only it was a little closer. But the Spitfire was just too strong this time. Let's head over the desk and see what they had to say about this match.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
London Spitfire put themselves in prime playoff position after sweeping the Seoul Dynasty 4-0. What a series for London. Welcome back, everybody. Great games right there. It was a bit more one-sided than we had hoped, but London has to be feeling great. You're now gearing up for the Stage 2 playoffs, just 2 more regular season matches to go. And before we break down the games, I want to get right to it. It's time to crown our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. It's the man Woo Yall, and he's down on the floor with Zoe right now.
Thank you so much, Pocket. Yeah, please give it up for the player of the match from the London Spitfire. Woo Yall did it on stage with his team. A sweep, a clean sweep against one of the strongest team in the league at the moment. I have to ask straight up, did you expect this game to be a bit closer than what it was?
우열 선수 일단 오늘 MVP와 경기 승리를 굉장히 축하드립니다. 서울이라는 굉장히 리그에서 가장 강한 팀 중 하나를 상대하게 되셨는데 오늘 게임이 이렇게 4대 0으로 쉽게 가실 줄 알았나요? 아니면 좀 더 접전이 될 거라 생각하셨나요?
일단은 서울이 가장 강한 팀이라서 4대 0은 생각지 못했지만 그래도 약간 코치님들이 전략 분석도 잘해주셨고 우리는 이 게임에 대한 믿음이 있었기 때문에 좋은 결과가 있었던 것 같습니다.
Seoul is definitely one of the strongest teams in the league, and we didn't think it would be a 4-0. However, our coaches did a really good job in analyzing the games, and we had a lot of confidence, and we really believed in ourselves coming in today, so we did think we were going to win.
All right, well, rightfully so. It was a well-deserved win from you and your team. Now, do you think, looking at the next week's matches against Shanghai and as well as Dallas, can you continue to stroll through Sweep City?
이제 다음 주에는 샹하이와 달라스 표를 상대로 경기를 하시게 되시는데 계속 이 승승장구를 이어가실 수 있으실 것 같으신가요?
저희 팀이 근래 들어서 살짝 주춤하는 모습을 보여주긴 했지만 그래도 우리는 지금 끊임없이 엄청난 속도로 성장하는 중이고 앞으로도 좋은 모습 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
I think that we definitely have shown ourselves like starting a little bit on stage. However, we are a team that has been evolving very, very quickly recently, and you can look forward to our games.
Well, we definitely will. Thank you so much, Woo Yall and Robin, of course, for the translation. We're now heading over to the desk to break down the action between the Seoul Dynasty and London Spitfire.
Thank you so much, Zoe. That is our player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. And Woo Yall, he definitely deserves it today. The Diva player only died 3 times on King's Row, and that's where we're going to start the breakdown. We got Bren, we've got Reinforce, and coming off of halftime, it was a 2-0 lead for the Spitfire. In fact, it looked like they were rolling through Seoul Dynasty. Game number 3, King's Row, it looked like a pretty solid start for Seoul, though.
Yes, it absolutely did. And I mean, Johnny was predicting that Seoul was going to be taking this one. He definitely gave me some banter as well about that in the halftime. But in the end, it was a few minor mistakes that just cost Seoul this win at the end of the day. And London were just a lot more elegant in their ways. They were using the ultimates, they were building up, they were making crucial adaptations as well. They were making critical hero switches as the game was progressing. And I mean, these Graviton surges by Profit were absolutely incredible across the entirety of this map.
Johnny, if you look at the deaths, it was London killing Seoul 53 times to just 33 deaths on the Spitfire side of things. What was the difference maker when it came to the massacres?
I just think that overall the tempo that London Spitfire came out with at the gate, I mean, Seoul Dynasty weren't able to keep up at all. Miro, his Reinhardt, he isn't necessarily known for it as much as the Winston. And Gesture and Woo Yall, I mean, they just applied so much pressure to Seoul Dynasty, so the front line couldn't stand up to it.
Speaking of those Reinhardts, we had some big Reinhardt plays in this one. The Earth Shatters, one of the game-changing moments in the game. And Bren, it was looking like Seoul was going to be able to finish their push. How did they get stuffed by London?
Yeah, it was a very difficult maneuver, but essentially, if we roll the clip, you can see what I'm talking about here as we move into. I mean, Miro sets it up beautifully with a nice little Earth Shatter onto 2 players here, and that, you know, you're thinking that's probably what they need to get it going. You know, they've got these opening picks, they can just push it. It's home sweet home from this point on, but not quite, because London was so close to the final point of this map. They ended up getting better respawns. They ended up getting back into the fight at a faster pace than Seoul, and Seoul just couldn't get straight back into it, despite the fact that they had these huge advantages. They ended up just getting essentially grinded out in the final moments here.
Unfortunately, it was Seoul falling short of that 3rd point. London gets all 3 on their attack. So now that sets up match point already in favor of London. But remember, map score is going to have a huge impact as we get into the playoff tiebreakers next week. So they're looking to close it out with a 4-0. We go to Gibraltar. Thoughts when we're entering the map? Because you said This is where Flooded can shine on Widow.
Yeah, and they brought out the Widow, and they looked pretty good for them overall. But then on defense, I mean, they just collapsed overall. I think they just couldn't keep up the tempo once again. Fleta played a lot of Genji this series, and really, it was the Widowmaker to me that stood out for him that I like to see more of. So the attack was pretty good, but then on defense, they just collapsed once, I mean, the London Spitfire put forth the aggression.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, to be honest. We saw some excellent moments out of Fleta. He definitely turned up much more in this final map than he had done in the past. And I feel like a big part of that, again, was the fact that he was playing the Widowmaker. It's a lot harder to try and shut him down as he has in the past. This was a sick South done by Zumba. And I got to as well, despite the fact that Seoul did lose, Zumba was playing out of his bloody mind this game. He had an incredible performance across the board. Definitely one of the stars for the show. And I mean, this Dragon Blade as well. It was just a whole series of sick ultimates across the board from both these teams, and honestly, despite the fact that it was a 4-0, a very enjoyable game to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a Diva player. I was learning from these guys as the series went on. How do you drop a Diva bomb and pick up 3 kills? Well, just watch Zumba throughout this series. Big match for London, and today they walk away with the victory. As you look at the standings, now that means London is going to jump up to number 2 here for Stage 2. Seoul falling behind the Gladiators after that 0-4 loss.
This is crazy now, because with London winning this one 4-0, it's completely set a whole series of events into motion now. We really don't know who's going to be fighting now for this number 2 and number 3 seed. It's still super up in the air. Anything can happen now until next Saturday.
And remember, Gladiators still have to go perfect if they want in the playoffs. Most likely they'll be playing Philly and Boston. So a lot of playoff scenarios up in the air right now. Johnny, Seoul, though, if they're going to get into the playoffs, if this is a rematch that we could see again next Sunday, what do they need to fix? I know they had a little bit less time to prep for this matchup.
It's going
now
to
you
be
got
hard.
about a week to get ready.
It's going to be hard, Pocket. I'm not going to lie to you, because this straight-up style that they're playing the Genji, they're playing the dive and anti-dive. When London Spitfire brings out the Junkrat, I mean, it just gets so hard for Seoul Dynasty to adapt to all these pocket picks. So overall, I think that they need to throw some curveballs themselves, really, if they want to compete with the top teams.
All right, that's going to do it for our first match of the day. But coming up next, things are going to get thick. We got Houston on your main stage. They'll be taking on the Shock when we return.